Illuminati. They wad with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power. Consciousness. Our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
Created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power. The secret to consciousness. Our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. All right, let me just fix this really quickly. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Before I forget, everything that we do here is supported by the sales of that game that's on the screen and was on the background trailer for the last little bit. So if you have a second to check out Neofeud, if you like cyberpunk games, cyberpunk generally, adventure games, point-and-click adventure games, Disco Elysium, cyberpunk, and adventure games, The Matrix 4, Matrix Resurrections, indigenous created anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist things, and all of those things together. So indigenous created cyberpunk, like actual left adventure games that are also hopefully very entertaining and satirical and funny. If you find any of those things worth checking out, do check out Neofeud. It does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Hui, which is a Hawaiian, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Maori word that means collectively coming together, meeting, working together, for the mutual benefit of all people, not for a handful of oligarchs, which we will be talking about today. Yes. So, anyways, Neofeud is on sale. I do have to continue to try to, when it's on sale, I do have to do a little extra promotion for it because it does support everything that we do here. It is a ongoing process, working on Neofeud 2 at present. Of course, I'm trying to get it done as soon as humanly possible to become a transhuman digital construct that can instantiate several million copies of myself. Then I, like Agent Smith circa Matrix Reloaded, and then I could, insert myself into millions of other, digital replicas of humans at the end of 1999, and then have Silver Spook Earth, and I could just make as many Neofeuds as I want. But I can't do that yet because, the despite whatever Nick Bostrom and the simulation argument people and the transhumanists from 1995 would like to tell you, it's not clear that we live in a simulation quite yet. And taking the red pill, despite what the horse tranquilizer injectors and the sheep dewormers and the goat nail polish consumers will tell you. I mean, the descendants of Gamergate and the red pill. I don't think that's actually going to help that much. And try not to take too many pills, especially in the United States. That's the imperialist narco traffickers making money, destroying every American body. So that's too bad for them. I mean, it's good for the oligarchs that are going to make all the money killing you. But anyways, Neofeud is on sale, and it is a game that is currently supporting everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative, and we really appreciate it when you pick it up. All the sales do go in. Some people ask, how does the Silver Spook games work? There are no bosses and there are no landlords here. It is a non-capitalist, worker cooperative. So basically, what we work on, you can ask Richard Wolff or Michael Hudson or Giannis Varoufakis or or Chinese people 2,000 years ago what a worker cooperative is, because this is not new technology, not new social and economic technology. But basically, when you work together, what we produce, the revenue from the game. There's no perfect way to do that under the current economic structure that we have. We don't have fully automated luxury, gay earth communism, or any variation thereof yet. However, what we can do is we can take all the revenue from the game, and then whoever worked on the game gets exactly equal amount for what they make, for the work that they put in. So you put in 10% of the work, you get, if for every $100 that the game makes minus the Steam cut and the itch cut, of course, and the PayPal 2.5% that they take, it goes, if $100 is made, then $10 goes to the person that did 10%, $5 goes to the person that did 5%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I always I try to give myself less than everyone else. That way, if anything, everyone else is getting more than whatever the people that have, seniority, not seniority, but because I'm the person that's kind of like managing all this stuff, I don't want to give anyone less. So that includes QA, testers, programmers, mostly it was QA and voice actors. That's who worked on Neofeud other than myself. So I make sure those people get as much as they can. And I try to share and shout out other people who worked on or work with Neofeud as well as much as possible. Because there is social capital is real. And it does impact everyone's life. It's a very difficult problem to solve, how to deal with. Even the most advanced indigenous socialist civilization on Earth hasn't figured out how to deal with that problem of social capital and what to do when everybody has their basic housing, water, electrical, educational, security, and basic needs met. How to manage the problem of art, entertainment, and cultural capital and inequality and visibility. It's a very difficult problem to solve. But I have faith that they'll figure it out. They're reducing massively online mind prison video games and military industrial complex recruiting tools. This is what all AAA and all online, the biggest games are. To figure out a good way to reduce it to 3 hours for people under the age of 18, crack down on wealth worship and influencer MLM scams, which are just Western Utah Mormons, Jehovah's Witness, pyramid scheme, Amway, Lou LaRue style pyramid scheme style capitalism applied to the digital 21st century. That's what MLM, not Marxist-Leninist Maoism, multi-level marketing schemes are. Amway applied to the digital 21st century, and then getting every free millennial and Gen Z who has any ounce of free time, if they haven't given it all to their other Uberized gig jobs for the California style hyper-capitalist or Western virus, California, the C1256 variant of the Western virus that is California surveillance capitalism, where you're giving all your labor to Amazon and shilling for Coca-Cola on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and then pumping up your doTERRA that you have to buy $1,000 into. So it's a fusion of the digital California surveillance capitalism of taking everybody's free labor and having this giant warehouse that everybody has to buy their food, their clothing, their books, and everything else from. It's called Amazon, with Mormon Utah-style multi-level marketing schemes. Then Jehovah's Witness and all Western religions in North America are what all the multi-level marketing schemes are based on. You get buy-in, you got to recruit massive amounts of believers, on this guarantee that you're going to get to some kind of prosperity doctrine, which has more religious characteristics. But anyway, and then you have the East Coast, the big money, which is just narco trafficking into China for silk and tea, and then throwing tea out some kind of beach party in Boston. I think they dumped some Earl Grey that they stole from China. And then in the big money is like banking and imperialism, and mostly in the global South, the global East, the colonial plunder, which is its own form of capitalism. Right? Each of these, so you have the East Coast. I call it the Larry Summers, or I call it the FDR 3655 variant. Right? That's the Franklin Delano Roosevelt's made their entire fortune narco trafficking into China, stealing Hawaii as a platform to make war and plunder in Asia. And then you have the California, the GB, the Jeff Bezos 3652 Californian surveillance capitalist, big tech, just wealth extraction from every possible inch of earth, and your digital mind plundering through 140 character brain poison. That is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And then you have the Mormon, you have the LDS 2566 Western barbarism variant. That is the multi-level marketing, and each of these all combine, and they fight each other, and sometimes they combine. Like Walmart slapping Amazon over there, Microsoft is like punching, Bill Gates is punching Bezos, trying to get $10 billion worth of military industrial complex DoD contracts to do all of the data management for the Pentagon. Kind of like France slapping, France is over there, white glove, sipping its pea soup, and then white glove slapping Australia, going, "Well, you're taking my $92 billion worth of nuclear submarines." Cold War 2.0 hybrid war on China, useless waste of money to make submarines. I wanted to make the submarines. For the American military industrial complex. Then you have the Pentagon, the P266 variant of Western barbarism, which is just like sitting around, hanging around Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and Pompeo and Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman executives somewhere in DC. And just trying to get closer to the people who sit down with Mont Blanc pens and write out. I think they used to write out with Mont Blanc pens. William Gibson's teacher, fun fact, connecting cyberpunk to the Pentagon and military industrial complex. William Gibson's number one most heralded writing teacher was actually a military weapons military weapons contract purchase writer. That was his job. And the reason why William Gibson writes so specifically is because he was trained by somebody who very accurately and precisely, he's like, it was a Ono Sendai Cyberspace 7. It was a 7-function force feedback Russian manipulator. You know why? It was an American manipulator that shot, Falcon Winter Soldier style Tomahawk missiles out of its pinky. But the reason why William Gibson writes in that style is because he was trained by somebody who worked in DC to write 25,000 AR-15, AR-15, version 6 with 2.65 milligrams per, X and Y and Z. Basically, like very specific purchase orders for the Pentagon, for the military-industrial complex. So William Gibson, Cyberpunk comes from Pentagon stenographer writing. It's actually what it is. So anyway, but that's just a fun fact. You can go ask him about it. Don't ask me how I know that. I'm not saying that he works for the military-industrial complex, but he does stand the CIA too much in agency. You got to stop doing that, my friend. Anyways, it's just you hang out in liberal blue checkmark Twitter, and it just the brainworms. You do too much stenography for Northrop Grumman. You're an actual tanky selling multi-10 billions dollars worth of tanks to French BNP Paribas bankers. You start writing bullshit into Twitter. Anyways, and into your best-selling New York Times front page novels as well. It's very sad. Anyways, that is actually, though, it's extremely detailed in this cyberpunk writing, which is what Cyberpunk 2020, 2077, The Matrix, and Shadowrun are all based on. They're all just plagiarists of William Gibson, basically. Literally, Shadowrun, Night City in Cyberpunk 2020, the concept of Nuyen, the currency du jour in Night City in the Cyberpunk 2077 and 2020 world, is just ripped off from Neuromancer and the Burning Chrome and the Sprawls trilogy. But I think Gibson's a little bit salty about that. I think he's a little bit irked about that, which is why he said correctly, however somewhat disgruntled, Cyberpunk 2077 is Grand Theft Auto reskinned with 80s retro feature, which is totally accurate, and it's just a waste of time, and it made billions of dollars for suits, and it totally is the megacorp evil that it pretends to criticize, which it does badly, and it's full of transphobic garbage. And Cyberpunk 2077 is a terrible video game that ripped off countless programmers, artists, writers, musicians, voice actors, QA, PS4 and Xbox porters, and all kind of other employees that were paid so terribly that they had to live in separate cities and also burnt out and had mental and physical health crises. So CD Projekt Red is a terrible corporation. I just want to start with that, and fuck those people. And Quadruple and Jim Stephanie Sterling, or is it Stephanie Sterling, and Curio and other actual based cyberpunks are correct to call out this clown company and all the other game companies that also work with the military-industrial complex. Gaming and the military-industrial complex very closely tied. It's the MIC 21165 variant, right? Very closely related to the CDPR 2077 variant of Western barbarism brain virus. It's called all their culture and ideology, right? That's about making vast quantities of money for a handful of oligarchs, like, I don't know, the CTO and the CEO of CD Projekt Red, who made billions of dollars destroying their workforce, taking investor money and just like doing nothing, just burning it on yachts and more mansions and like Teslas, and then driving the Tesla into places that don't have extradition clauses to the United States when all the pissed off East Coast investors. Not to say that I care of a shit about the East Coast investors that put millions of dollars and billions of dollars into this garbage corporation as they got money under neo-feudal capitalism to make terrible products and make malfunctioning products and do nothing, right? Which is what CD Projekt does. They make nothing for 10 years and then they get billions of dollars to do nothing, like Elon Musk does, right? Making less than 1% of all the cars and the total automotive production of capacity of Toyota, Honda, Lexus, Mercedes. You add it all up, and Tesla is less than 1%. But they take a higher valuation than all of those combined, right? So that's where America is, because it doesn't make anything, and the West generally. But the biggest imperial powers, it's the NF, it's the NF2021, the NF 2021 virus of Western barbarism, and the collapse phase, which is we do nothing. We just take central bank quantitative easing, printing infinity money, throw that money into our coffers, and then do a bunch of buybacks to pretend like there's some kind of product happening, but it's just a bunch of it's an artificial valuation inflation, in the same way that what they're doing is China threat inflation by putting out China's going to come invade California, and it's going to do freedom of navigation any second now, and it's going to start shooting missiles into Hawaii. There's 4 ships. Oh my God, they're going to blow us up. Buy more missiles, buy more bombs, buy more Lockheed, right? And that they do the same thing that they do the military industrial threat inflation of actual existing indigenous multi-thousand-year-old civilizations that are saving the world from the Western barbarism variants. You name them: feudalism, capitalism, barbarism, colonialism, slavery, neo-feudal post-capitalism, Utah-based pyramid schemes. They're banning the ban on scam influencers and wealth worship on TikTok and the big major social media platforms that are bigger, by the way, than anything in the West, is part of that. Is the West, as Voltaire correctly put it, this 3,500-year-old civilization and its merit-based system is the antidote to the Western illusory Christian historiography. And Louis XIV would do well to learn from them. And then Voltaire was thrown into a cage like Snowden, Daniel Hale, not quite assassinated like Fred Hampton, like anybody who says true things in the West. You get assassinated, you go to prison. Or you just get sidelined, you get character assassinated, you get called a genocide denier like I do on a regular basis. That's fine. I mean, it's a thing that I expect from the useless Western falling apart world. But the banning and the reining in of dozens and dozens of tech companies, the collapse of stocks in New York and in China is the solution to the Chinese have updated the best vaccines, not only for their own country, and they have over 2 billion vaccinations. But they also have the best brain vaccines, more important, right? Cultural vaccines, ideological vaccines. And then, of course, the literal financial and economic vaccines and the hybrid counter-hegemonic, class warfare, you could say. Because these deal with all of these. They deal with the Mormon one. That deals with the Mormon, Western barbarism, capitalism variant of multi-level marketing Amway bullshit. Like telling young single moms that are rationing cans of tuna fish, right? Trying to teach as a college professor with a useless degree and $200K student debt. Hey, if you buy $1,000 worth of doTERRA and sell useless, pointless essential oils and mint, you'll make enough money to pay back, 10% of your student debt, or pay the rent this month, or eat this month. That isn't ration cans of 20-year-old tuna fish, You'll be able to drink water this month because water costs $5 a gallon in pick your dying city with 50, 200-year-old water pipes. So the ban on scam, illegal, like just making it rain on your TikTok and going, you can do that too. Follow me, be an influencer like me, and just ripping people off through social media and digital, evolved marketing. It's a fusion of the Mormon virus, or the pyramid scheme. That a lot of that comes out of. I'm not necessarily Mormon, but it comes out of Utah. A lot of these. Whether that's Lulu, I was talking to Holly about this. Lulu Amway, the way that the Mormon religion lifted off, right? It's an evolution from, the Holy Roman Catholic, Spanish and French imperial. Well, they have like deep and thick history. Well, it's illusory history. They never had true history. It's all divine mandate bullshit, right? And which is why you should get Louis XIV, the Sun King, has golden palaces and 76,000 golden toilets that you polish. And you get to get beheaded for asking for a slice of bread like Jean Valjean. That evolved into the Mormon virus because a bunch of dying Europeans, because of their terrible system and famine and suffering and nasty, brutish, short lives that they blame on not having enough kings, badly stealing from China their meritocracy and calling it. That's what Hobbes is, just a plagiarist like everyone else in the West of China, saying what we need is a strong central government. What they don't get is that you need a strong system that is deeply responsive, meritocratic, and not full of Western illusory lies, right? But we need a strong central king, and that'll solve all our problems. Because look, China they have a system that's managed 1.4 billion, but a large number of people at the time. Collectively, it's more like a federation. You look internally, it's more like a federation internally of 56 different ethnic regions dealing in trade, but with universal rules, right? With universal testing systems, which the British also plagiarized. The A-levels and everything, the SATs were all stolen from China as well, by the way. Along with the black powder, the writing system, and anything civilized. The only thing that the Westerners did was come back with the black powder that were celebratory fireworks, firecrackers, and chasing away of the spirits, and culturally important lion dance, entertaining displays for the Lunar New Year parties, Gungi Vachoy, etc. We have that in Hawaii. But they took the celebration of the black powder and they turned it into weapons of death and mass destruction. That's all the West does. And then they killed a bunch of Chinese people to force opium into their mouth for all of $200 trillion worth of silk, tea, and every other product they've ever taken from them and the global South. $152 trillion since 1960 to the present. So that's what the West is good at, is destroying everything. And they're a bunch of clowns. Just like Macron and the ScoMo, that idiot in AU with the AUKUS. It should have been FAUKUS. France, Australia, UK, US, right? And then you can all go down together. But hey, France, if you want to be based and join Greece and Italy, which are turning towards the actual advanced civilization indigenous civilization that everyone else is plagiarizing, you're welcome to. Don't go down with these idiots that are killing their own people with COVID-19. Look at the UK and the US. 670,000 deaths. 1 in 500 Americans have died of COVID-19. You're an abject failure. Abject failure. You know how many deaths you had on like the last few days? There's a day, like about 2 days ago, 3,600 deaths. Congratulations. You're a failure. You can't do that because you have Western illusory, ascientific. You have IV2666 brain variant Western barbarism virus. It's called the ivermectin that Joe Rogan is selling into all your idiots' mouths. And you can sell, you see that nobody takes ivermectin in China and Vietnam. You know why? Because they have an education system. Try to get one someday. I'm at the public, private, and charter school level, and in the university and the Ivy League level. There's no education system in the West. If there was, there wouldn't be people doing that en masse, and no way to stop it. So somebody who believes he can breathe through his testicles and runs the Semen Retention Army ran for prime minister for the government of Canada. So Canada also has this deeply in there, this PPC 266 brain variant. It's called testiclebreathing.com. Sign up for it. Get a newsletter and learn how you can save the world from China. Stop Canada from becoming China. See, they're all afraid of China. They should be. Actually, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be afraid of it. Idiot clown failures need to worry about truth happening in their failed barbarisms, and then civilization might show up. But I mean, the human beings that exist and are mind prisoned in the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, France, Germany, Sweden. 75% of France think that U.S. won World War II. That's part of your U.S. brain virus right there. What the hell? You don't have an education system in France. Germany's over there still colonizing Namibia, flipping back and forth. Now, I hope that a lot of Europe will start doing the internal work. It's not just enough to just go, well, we're going to do a trade deal with China. They have much more internal work. And you have to reckon with your history of colonialism, all of Europe, the entire EU, Sweden too. Why were you joining the United States to sanction and destroy Uyghurs when you pretend to care about them by taking money and giving it to the NED and the State Department cutouts that back Adrian Zenz, a neo-Nazi from Germany that wants to melt Jews in fire, that the left, right, and center Western media has been citing for the last 2 years. And it's really sad. They can't even get a new Nazi that works for the CIA to plagiarize fake data from Chinese websites, badly translated, and take 8 anecdotal stories and call that evidence of genocide when there's mountains of genocide evidence, physical bodies all over fucking Canada. And we're not going to sanction Canada? No, that's because Sweden is a clown show that's pretending to be some kind of progressive country. And it has to reckon. It has to reckon. You better start reckoning because you're not going to be getting any... Xi Jinping said, "Fuck you! I'm not going to talk to you, Biden. You're gonna send nuclear warheads up my butt in aircraft carriers and F-22 Raptors all over Okinawa, Guam, and Hawaii, and you think I'm going to talk to you? No, you get your shit straight before I cut off." This is what the China's not going to tell you, but they could just cut off all the a lot of things that are they are actually punishing a lot of Western oligarchs. That's why they're all crying. China won't let me make money. Making $7 billion this year at TAL education and in massive fintech, surveillance capitalist technology and real estate firms. Why are they punishing landlords? It's funny because in America you have all these protesting, dying tenants that are dying from COVID-19, starvation. There's 40 times more malnutrition deaths in the United States than in Vietnam, and China has like even less deaths than America per capita than that. And all the tenants are like, please give me like $15 an hour, which is not enough to live. And in China, just the other day, there were hundreds of real estate like conglomerate investors that were bidding up this huge, mega overheated $30 million condo with like Tesla lighting and like Nicki Minaj playing on the rooftop kind penthouse. Luxury condos in Shanghai, and there's this huge conglomerate that's got smacked down. I can't remember the name of it, but it was and the multi-millionaire investors were protesting in the street, demanding the Chinese government stop hurting them and causing them to lose money in overheating, commercial and residential real estate investment. It's like China is just solving the GM266 or the GM2008 virus. It's called the American-led subprime mortgage crisis and global economic and financial meltdown 0809. The jacked up house of cards. And China's like, oh, that's a really bad way to do things. That's a bad culture. That's a bad economic, political, social system. To hyper financialize under neoliberalism and then give $7.50 an hour Applebee's waitresses, McMansions worth $2 million, right? With no give dead people, just find a grave and slap a social security number, pretend it has a pulse, and then give it a subprime mortgage. This is where America was in 2007. They were literally giving dead people mortgages to buy up like for a overpriced Californian, 7-bedroom, And then you destroyed your entire economy, and then now bankers, TBTF, too big to fail. You repackage all of those into regional banks, and the collateralized debt obligations repackaged into CDSs, and then you sold that into everyone's firefighter, teacher, nurse, and working class pension fund, and everybody's entire infrastructure and municipal water supply and municipal fire department and hospital and the municipal everything was annihilated, right? By all of these toxic exploding debts, and they just gave all the richest people and all the worst criminals money at the top of the people with the closest proximity to the New York Federal Reserve and the Central Bank of the United States and all of Wall Street. Just give them all money and that's all the West has been doing for the last years, is printing money and giving it to the richest and the most powerful clowns like Elon Musk and the CD Projekt Red CEOs, and even more powerful, the people that work in at the highest levels of Wall Street and Greenwich, Connecticut, at the hedge funds. And China just said that's a terrible thing to do. Why would you overprice real estate so that young people, millennials, and just people generally can't afford the rents and apartments and houses? That's just a good way to make houseless people and make people sad and pissed off. And also, it's not helping our goal of Shakang Shahui, which is moderate prosperity for all, not exorbitant prosperity for a handful of oligarchs, feudal, neo-feudal, capitalist, slavery, Roman centurions and the generals that command them, and a bunch of clowns in the Roman Senate. This is the Western way. You give everything to the top idiots, and then you rip off and lie to everyone else, and then kill them. And especially kill the people that are not from your empire. Like, I don't know, people in Africa, people in the rest of Europe, all these people, indigenous people that used to be in Europe, and the Romans killed them all, or integrated and assimilated and forced them to speak Roman and use the denarius. And then they money printed. But instead of like taking a Xerox machine, right, and taking a $100 bill, sticking on a Xerox machine, using very expensive woven wool and greenback fabric with holograms inserted in. The Romans didn't have that technology, and you can't make money with a Xerox machine. This is not a TOS violation. Not telling you how to make money. The Xerox machine. If you Xerox a $100 bill and you put another dead white war criminal onto white inkjet paper, it's not going to work at the store. So don't try to do that, because I know there's a lot of idiot Westerners who just believe shit when somebody opens their mouth that they somehow respect even slightly, and then they copy it, because that's how the West works. That's how they're so susceptible, because they're not inoculated against idiocy, including all the history books. Anyway, so when you print money. But the Americans print this. They just print this infinite amounts of money, and they just throw it in. They don't only print it. You just all you do is press 90000000000 in a very privileged server with a 7 football field size, a massive data farm somewhere underneath. I can't tell you where it is, but it's somewhere in the United States. Well, you know where it is. And you have very privileged servers right next to it, in New York or New Camden, under Camden, I should say. Fun fact, a lot of the servers that run the biggest money laundering and the high frequency trading operations also manage a lot of the porn. I was talking to a New Jersey redacted person, and he was like, yeah, everything I've got all this like porn in my servers, and right next to it I've got like all the yacht payments for like Mike Pompeo. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, it's a bunch of seedy, gross, nasty disgustingness, and and not that's sex work is work. I'm not throwing shade at it, but he's like, yeah, the kind of stuff we're housing, and this is like old, rotten, old virus-filled porn shit. And then I also got all the collateralized debt obligations from 08, 09 that haven't blown up yet, and all the ones from 2022 that are gonna blow up next year. Oh shit, did I just say that? All of the Western all the yoga classes and this Chase banks and all the McDonald's and all of the Empire State is not gonna be worth. It's gonna be worth less than the U.S. empire in any second now, because it's all going to collapse because they can never get back to work, and all the offices are waste of fucking space, and there always were, and they were just places. They were just the housing for bullshit job doers and TPS report writers and email senders that nobody gives a fuck about, and insurance adjusters adjusting their own death of their own souls, doing useless extraction for parasitical oligarchs that Michael Hudson is going to criticize some more in his next book. Oh yeah, that's what's in my server. It's just a bunch of garbage. So if you're an IT worker in the United States, you're just a digital Western virus peddler. I'm not just talking about the Stuxnet worms. And that thing that caused your Windows machine to lock up and turned it into a Bitcoin farm for some fucking underpaid. I shouldn't throw shade at Eastern Europe, but machine was turned into a Russian hacker farm. No. Anyways, I said many words and I didn't talk about the Matrix, but that is the Matrix. That is all the mind prison. The Matrix. I really hope that the Matrix gets recuperated more away from the Gamergate 4chan right-wing chuds that have been a major vector. The 4chan 26635, very important Western virus to spread global fascism and get right-wing clowns elected, like Trump and Bolsonaro and Boris Johnson, in collaboration with Mark Zuckerberg, NATO, the Atlantic Council, and all these idiots that back all of this stuff to foment. It's a more efficient way. It's a collaboration. Again, it's a collaboration between the East Coast Western barbarists and then the West Coast California Western barbarists. This is digital East and West. Because Mark Zuckerberg was getting fake lapped around in the Senate hearing committees, the Congress. The Clinton and Zuckerberg had big problems, right? The East Coast and the West were at odds. It was an interfeudal in neo-feudalism, right? Rivalry between the DC Wall Street Beltway nexus of power, and then the Zuckerbergs, who was like, it seemed like, oh, with social media, all these Russian troll farms are helping Donald Trump. That's when you hear all these stories. It's just like some think tank or some person who's being paid money. This is the only way you can make a livable wage in the United States. Is you go to DC, you go to Wall Street, you go to some think tank, and you just write up a bunch of garbage. Whether that's marketing to tell people that cigarettes are toasted, or you're writing up that all of the leftists is coming out of Russian troll farms. That's where everybody understands socialism is just all a giant op, and that's why we should buy more missiles so we can shoot missiles and stop Russian troll farms with Tomahawk missiles. And Hillary Clinton is like, can we drone strike Assange? Because it's very important that they constantly recuperate any potential escape from the matrix, the mind prison of the entire Western world, and its diseducation and disinformation system. He's like, oh my goodness, people might actually learn that we suck, just like totally up and down, and we're completely corrupt and broken, settler, colonial, genocidal, planetary, military, industrial complex run. We're basically like a missile and disinformation hack writer, like all the failed L. Ron Hubbards that couldn't write a good enough science fiction story. They write science fiction, right, for the Pentagon. And the science fiction is Wuhan is a bioterror lab leak thing that's going to kill all Americans with Cuban nausea-inducing neuro wave guns and some bullshit. It's just science fiction writers in the Western world are just slightly better, less hacky stenographers and history textbook writers and policymakers, you know. And then the science fiction writers, you can sell a book that's a little more entertaining. It's got a little more pizzazz. The characters are a little stronger. But if you but depending how you, I shouldn't throw that much shade, because the history book writers, the policymakers in DC who write all this fiction, right, like all the legal fiction, like that Hawaii is the state of Hawaii, it's a lie. That write these laws, right, that like, you know, Glass-Steagall undoing and the Commodities Modernization Act of 2000s, you know, the 2000 under Bill Clinton. These people that write all these fictions that, you know, like The Great Moderation, written by former central bank head Ben Bernanke, that we're going to have permanent stability. These are great fictions. You know, I should say, you know, all of these, you know, the greatest fiction writers perhaps are not Hemingway and Faulkner, but rather policymakers, CIA stenographers, and the history textbook writers, you know, because they do a really good job telling Americans that you live in the greatest country on earth with freedom and democracy and prosperity, while it being the shittiest country on earth, like in terms of like what it does to the rest of the world. And even now it's the worst at COVID and its inequality, and also it doesn't have much freedom. Everybody's getting locked up, and when your freedom of speech, you get fucking imprisoned for just trying to stop America from destroying itself. Right, like Daniel Hill, you just get locked up when you say true things. You don't make any money. You know, you only make money when you lie in the United States. You know, whether that's marketing Toyota 4x4s, you know, with like American Johnson not compete, that he'll freely admit that I have to like make a bunch of bad marketing for rich capitalists and or that America is the best thing since sliced bread. You only will ever be paid money to do massive amounts of malicious lying. You know, that's really, you know, if you're any kind of nerd that likes to write words down or say words or think with your brain, you're not going to get paid. Richard Wolff's like, you can't get a job anywhere. I had like, you know, there's nobody listening to my speeches on socialism. And there's like less than on a hand, you could count the total number of economists left of Biden. You know, you couldn't open your mouth and say socialism and communism unless you never wanted to work again in Wall Street or in the university system. They're like, what's social, you know? And he's like, he had to major in history because the economics department wouldn't even allow him to investigate what actual socialism, communism actually were, you know? And it's still, where America still don't, you know? That's why nobody knows who the fuck won World War II. Because if you figured that out, then you might know, you know, actual successful, not perfect, but somewhat successful means of alleviating billions of people's suffering. And it's not coming from anywhere in the Western world. It's not coming from any Western left. It's sadly. You know, they help alleviate some of their own, but the biggest successful projects. But you can't learn that. It's illegal to learn that. That's why critical race theory is banned in 28 and counting states. Is because teaching true things is antithetical, and it is an antidote to Western illusory historiography, as Voltaire correctly put it, and then was put in prison. They said, no, you can't cure the poison that is Louis XIV's entire ideological existence and meaning and backing of all of our beautiful feudal and colonial and capitalist. I would argue that all of this capitalist, feudalist, slavery, separate system is all compartmentalization. That these are all blending together. This is like saying that, you know, there's delta variant, alpha variant, delta epsilon, and all these variants, like they just each one completely replaces the other, and they're totally separate systems. You know, it's like it's coronavirus. You know, yes, the delta is a little more virulent. It's you know, what is it, like 3 to 7 times more? You know, you have an N of 3 to 7 in terms of total number of people that it infects. It's produces 1,000 times more viral load in unvaccinated hosts. You know, you have the nasal cavities full of, you know, it's like an Agent Smith that can replicate. Imagine Agent Smith, you know, having bullet time slow motion battles with Keanu Reeves, like 100 of them, right? And he's all like, Hugo Weaving is like robotically punching and actually hitting Keanu, because apparently Hugo like busted Keanu's ribcage in the middle of the making of the show. No, he didn't bust it, but he like punched him and he's like, fuck, stop hitting me actually. But Hugo Weaving is like a method actor, so he's like, well, I have to physically punch the shit out of you because that's how I was taught as an Australian. What I do is I go extra hard, just like Australia is going, we're going to put even worse anti-China propaganda and buy $200 billion worth of our people's housing and food money and saving the kangaroos, the 500 million that are going to burn this year, because they burned the rest of them last year. And we're Australia. We punch harder than America. We're gonna fucking like shoot nukes into fucking Filipino vessels and the Chinese vessels. We're gonna shoot both of them. I don't care which side it's on, because we're so gung ho. We will buy all of the military-industrial complex weapons and just like be warmongering ghouls. That's Australia. And Hugo Weaving is just full Australian, punching Keanu Reeves in the chest, cracking his sternum. God damn. No, he didn't do that. I'm just joking. But he did actually hit him. So it's kind of like, but imagine Hugo Weaving and Agent Smith, if he was able to like just like breathe out into the Matrix, and his aerosolized Agent Smith, AGS 2665 variant of his nanoscale nanites just flowing out while he's fighting Keanu and just infect everyone around without even having to touch them, right? See, when Agent Smith, like when you get with the first coronavirus, you have to actually get pretty close and be in contact for like a little bit longer period of time. You have to breathe in or ingest like a larger amount of the total COVID-19 alpha to get it. But in the Delta, it's much faster, right? And so that's the difference between the modern capitalism variants and the feudalism variant. It's unclear which one is actually, they have different characteristics. The Mormon pyramid scheme, variant, and then you have the East Coast global imperial. We're gonna fucking dump narco trafficked shit into your mouth in China, and then take the money from the narco trafficking in Colombia to fight wars in Afghanistan. Vice all this. That's a different variant, different strategy. Because you see, it's not a multi-level marketing scheme, right? But each of these brain viruses and physical viruses have different levels of virulence. They impact different populations differently. These slightly different strategies, but they're not really like totally different viruses, And the Agent Smith, that infects the Oracle, right? That can see. It's not really a different Agent Smith, right? It takes on the characteristics, right, of that which it is infected, and now it can like see widely and everything, and it has increased superpowers, so it can Super Saiyan fight Keanu Reeves, and like smash, and it cause mile-wide virtual space-time continuum explosions that cause all the rain to flutter off of Keanu Reeves' flapping goth Superman cape. That's called the trench coat, and that's really cool and based and fun in 3D movies. When you have like really cool, awesome effects, but it's not really like it's a different virus. That's what I try to argue, is that it's like the Western barbarism virus, when you go all the way back thousands of years ago, it's not necessarily Western exclusively. It's just where a lot of that violence, mass violence and disinformation and supremacist, my culture, language is better than you, and you will take it and you will do it. And living by violence from the commanding heights in a Leninistic diction is something that was normalized in parts of Europe and then spread and infected, right? And whatever used to be, in the same way that in The Matrix Reloaded, there used to be people that were shopping for groceries, there were school teachers, and there were even other agents. There were even other machine Matrix agents, right? In The Matrix at one point. And then Agent Smith came and he stuck his hand inside and said, you will all be me. Me, me, me. Remember that? You remember that? I don't know if you ever see the Reloaded. Everybody's like, fuck Reloaded. Oh, it was shit because Tarantino said it was shit, and Tarantino is a god, and I worship him, and I lick his butthole. But no, you should watch Reloaded, and I think Curio's YouTube channel has some good videos about Reloaded and Revolution. But anyways, when you stick, like it's like there used to be butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, ostensibly, I think, probably, maybe they were like selling. They were probably, if it was America, if America 2020, all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers are like dying from lack of insulin because it costs $400 a month, and trying to sell like fucking doTERRA and ivermectin to all of their gym bros, and then dying from COVID-19. But if any of the gym bros and unemployed nurses and former like radical punk rockers who are now DOD drone programmers, because that's what all the cyberpunks from the 80s are. If any of those people, were alive in the Matrix in Reloaded, they were, just a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, programmer, right? Friends of Thomas Anderson. They were just regular people. They're all different people, right? And then it's unclear whether there's a Matrix that is Asian and Chinese, and there's a Matrix version of Africa and South America. But anyway, there's a lot of different people, right? And then Agent Smith takes his hand, sticks his digital his digital existence into your sternum, right? He goes all the way inside, and then he starts replicating himself inside of you, just kind of like COVID-19, right? It aerosolized microscopic particles come through the central air system while you're working overtime to pretend like the value of Floridian skyscrapers and universities, which are just hedge funds masquerading as places of learning, which that's what a Western university is, especially America, to make $450,000 administrators their yacht payments, and the executives who run the banks that collateralized unemployed college student graduate loans. That's what they're doing in New York right now. Is they're doing collateralized, worthless American, STEM graduate degree, dumping that into everyone's pension fund, because kids ain't gonna pay that shit. $2 trillion of that, they ain't gonna pay that shit back. Are you kidding me? Anyways, so it's just like they're not gonna pay back a $7 Applebee's waitress ain't gonna pay back no $1.5 million fucking McMansion loan. So anyways, so when you take the virus and you go to that IT office, that cubicle farm, that not unlike Mr. Anderson's cubicle farm, and you're exhaling into the central air that doesn't have proper ventilation because the owner of the building don't care, and it's probably gonna fall down like the Floridian surf riders, and just collapse and kill thousands of you. If you don't die from the collapse of failing American concrete and steel and girder because they pack sawdust into the concrete to cut costs for the real estate industry, if you don't die from the collapsing surf rider building, you're going to die from the COVID-19. But, in the same way that you go into that office and you're breathing in all that COVID-19, right? And it's just like going into your lungs, replicating tiny little particles using, spike proteins, right? With increasing efficacy as Americans and the rest of the world Americans and Westerners refuse to get vaccinated because of their brain virus that tells them that vaccines are a CCP Chinese conspiracy to destroy American freedom and all this bullshit, and then because of the Western brain virus and the capitalism virus, there's vaccine apartheid, so that they can't even get vaccines to the other 7.4 billion people on Earth that don't live in the fucking West. Like in Vietnam, struggling to get it. African, global South countries struggling, dying by the mass because America. Only people that are helping them are the only people that America and the West can never learn about. China, Russia, the global friend, the group of friends. They're trying to help other people a little bit. And these are not perfect countries, but sure the fuck ain't you. And you're never gonna. The West is too busy like telling all their anarchists to just hate the countries that enable the actual impoverished, the proletariat of the world, the global South. Just hate them more. That's what all the children of the Toronto bankers are being told by the CIA that writes all of the anarchist playbooks for them. I'm just kidding. They're not all terrible, but you gotta get some actual history. You gotta get some actual history. Stop listening to Westerners, but it's mostly white people that are doing this kind of shit, but it's okay, because their daddy's making all the money, and daddy needs them to play laser tag on the Death Star, pretending like they're gonna have a revolution, just trying to support each other, which is important, just by throwing a few things at some cops and getting upset about the handful of the mask off fascists. Your daddy's the real fascist. The fascists are all in the fucking liberal party. Are you kidding me? The most successful ones. Anyways, so when you get that virus though in your cubicle, when you get it, because you're gonna get it, because you have to pretend like the University of Wisconsin or Florida is worth multi-billions of dollars worth of collateralized dying education system. And you're just if you are a science, technology, engineering, or mathematics professor, you are just a knowledge farm being underpaid because, fun fact, 70%, 50% before COVID-19 and an increased number are food insecure. 50% of college professors are food insecure. You are just a neo-feudal brain. You're a neo-feudal professor peasant churning out biotech cures for diseases that America is going to use instead to make the next anthrax and do actual chemical and biological warfare like it dropped in Asia, like Korea, Fort Detrick nonsense. You are just a brain peasant for Lockheed Martin, right? Make a better Tomahawk missile. Make a Tomahawk missile that can fuck with the Chinese actually more advanced and cost 2,000 times less Typodong missiles. Can you make a hypersonic missile? Because we have a failed military, but we need to make more military missiles so that William Gibson's teacher can do some more stenography and write 2,000 hypersonic Lockheed 2.68 7-function force feedback nuclear warhead missiles, you know, and then Australian, you know, Northrop Grumman and Aspie clowns, right, that run Australia. Australia is a little America wannabe little sheriff down there run by the CIA, going 200 million AR-15s with Falcon and Winter Soldier style star-spangled magazines and really awesome, cool fossil. Can we like burn coal while we're shooting the missile? Can I take some of the coal that I love to eat, like in Parliament? That's ScoMo, the Australian PM that's doing the bidding of the empire for its master, America. Can we like just like have giant lumps of coal and just like shoot it into China? Can we just like drop coal on China? Because we could sell a lot of coal that way too. That's a really cool thing to do. And he's like, oh wait, but then the coal won't actually burn. We'll just be dropping like meteor-sized lumps of coal all over Chinese advanced hospitals that have 20 cases or less of COVID-19 for a country of 1.4 billion per day. And I don't know if that's gonna work, because like we have to burn the coal so we can cause climate change, so we can melt the Arctic and cause Battlefield 2042 military industrial complex, you know, Brzezinski style fucking psychopathic plans to destroy Earth and then fight wars and the chaos. And we need to actually burn the coal. So instead of coal meteors, how about we set the coal on fire and then just like package all of the exhaust from the coal and just like blast that into China, because China has the fastest growing renewable energy, and over 50% of all the electric cars, renewable tech, electric dump trucks, electric buses, electric high speed 50,000 kilometers plus and counting of rail. They're building it for the rest of the world. Can we just like make China look really stinky and gross and bad by just like burning all the coal and then just like taking a vacuum cleaner and then like a vacuum cleaner the size of like the Suez Canal and just like shooting it into China? Can we do that? Through the Strait of Malacca. I don't know anything about geography, physics, or how coal works, because I'm a person that runs Australia and any Western country, and I'm a total idiot, just like the person who breathed through his testicles that ran for Canada. And you know, you got 1.6, you got like 6% of the vote. That's pretty good, you know, for somebody who breathes through his testicles. That's progress. You know what I'm saying? That's really great that Canada is a failed country that doesn't have an education system, just like everywhere else, and loves to commit genocide while like 100 plus, you know, like just across the board UN certified genocide, while throwing accusations at countries that have flimsy or no evidence, throwing genocide accusations at other countries, because Canada is a clown and a vassal client of the United States, like everyone else in the West. So I think that you know what's going to happen is that you have to really get inoculated from that virus. You know, you gotta get inoculated from that virus, both COVID-19, you know, and that PSA. Now, in all seriousness, please get vaccinated and please social distance, please wear masks. You know, whether you go back to that hedge fund that's pretending to be a university teaching anthropology 206, you know, aeronautics, whether you're training as a NYU perma adjunct knowledge peasant, right? Teaching engineering 101 to rich kids, which requires you to teach because you're all owned by Lockheed Martin. You know what they actually ask you to do in STEM classes in the beginning? This has been going for over 10 years. In the engineering 101, they'll have a Russian MiG jet. They'll give you the airspeed velocity. What's the airspeed velocity of an unmissiled Russian MiG jet? And then you have to design a system using mortar, using rocket propellants, or some combination thereof, right? The more rocket propellants and the more expensive the mortars and the more rare earth minerals that you use to do all these things, the better, because that's the job of the military, and that's what the job of the university system is, to invent more weapons to sell through the military industrial complex. That's what the colleges of the U.S. are actually for. So in the STEM classes in America, that's why, you know, Obama's is STEM push. So, hey, black kids, women, minorities, people of color, all y'all can join the United States college system and join Captain Marvel and be marvelous. Join the science and technology, engineering, and mathematics community in making more weapons and bombs to blow up preschools and hospitals in Iraq, like in Fallujah. That's what the American college system is for, to make better weapons delivery systems. But better. Just like more advanced, more missiles coming out of Captain Billionaire Arms Dealer Playboy's buttholes, right? And Captain Star Spangled Underpants, we saved the world, right? And then that's what Avengers is for. It's just that the Hollywood the universities of the United States and Canada invent the weapons, right? So you take and the job is to take a frozen turkey and shoot down a Russian jet with a frozen turkey. That's the job that they give. That's actually like that. You can Radio Free Amanda, Cat Content Only, did a podcast with somebody who was a literal STEM graduate, Asian STEM graduate. That matters, but they were talking about anti-Asian racism at the time. And in the university, all the Asian students are, basically your CCP, your China CPC, ivermectin. You're trafficking ivermectin into Joe Rogan's body. That's why he got it. You're a CPC spy if you're a Chinese college student until proven otherwise. And Chinese is any Asian because the West doesn't care about, they don't care to learn anything about Asia. Even the CIA, they're a bunch of idiots. That's why they feel that fishing Venezuelan fishermen socialist organization fishes out all their A teams out of the water before they can get a coup done. Anyways, so when you're taking these classes, you're asked to design weapon systems for an unknown entity. It's not like Lockheed Martin is ever going to use this tracking and gendering in the minds of future brilliant science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and gearing them towards weapons manufacturing or biotech. Like contorting molecules. Like take the fentanyl. Here's fentanyl. See if you can design a molecule as a fourth year, or undergrad, postgrad chemist. Try to make another version of fentanyl that's not exactly the same. Take the carbon and the nitrogen and the oxygen molecules, move them around a little bit. Okay, that's your job in the chemistry class, and make another opioid that's different, so we can FDA approve it, rubber stamp it, give it to Pfizer, and make another $7 billion, killing another 90,000 people this year. That's how many people died from fentanyl, opioids. As the narco traffickers who made their fortunes in the East Coast 200 years ago, narco trafficking opium into China and taking all their stuff in return at the barrel of a gun, are now narco trafficking into their own citizens' mouths fentanyl. That's a good way to kill people and take all their money. You just give them opioids. It's that's neofeudalism. It's when the narco trafficking capitalists narco traffic into its own people. It's like literally going straight into your body. And then they blame China. China made the fentanyl. They made it all. They're killing us with the fentanyl. It's the Sacklers that made the $30 billion fucking dollars. Don't blame them. But it's okay. It's not okay. But that's how the West works. Is be evil, terrible, disgusting, fucked up, and then call it despotic, authoritarian, Asian shit. Right? So everybody's authoritarian, despotic, and Asian in North Korea. They're just Asian. There's just something despotic about them. It's in their blood, right? It's in their blood because the West is also eugenicist. It's incorrect and racist. It's called eugenics. And there's just something in the Vietnamese blood that causes them to have 1,000 times less COVID-19 cases circa April 2020, right? That was literally published in Bloomberg and in New York Times. So this is the really smart college graduate, and scientists were also saying that as well. So the scientific community is infiltrated with brain virus in the Western world. Well, it always has been. There's scientists that came up with the social Darwinism. This is all science. This is all accredited universities. Toxic shitscapes, right? Anthropology was the first CIA. You go study the Trobriand Islanders and you figure out a way to move giant stones around, maybe crush them with it. This is the way this is the way these people conduct economic transactions. This is the matriarchal inheritance system. This is the aloha aropa rituals. And so if you infiltrate them and you marry X and Y and Z, or you come on the day when they're all sleeping, because that's the day where they all have a big makahiki, or they have their big luau, they have their big party, because we're all related Austronesian peoples from Africa to New Zealand, Rapa Nui, all the way up to Taiwan. Come the day after the makahiki, and when they're all sleeping, slit all their throats in the night, just like Andrew Jackson did to the indigenous people in Turtle Island. And then you can take all their shit. That's what anthropology is for. They're the original coup doers. They're the original imperialists, the anthropology department. It's in 2021, all the Jack Bauers and all the CIA agents of the world, all the people that Liam Neeson is playing all the time because he's a washed up shitty actor, and he needs money for drugs. the good ones, not the ones that he's narco trafficking into his fellow citizens with fentanyl, the ones that don't kill you. So Liam Neeson plays CIA agents. Those are the modern, but they're just the descendants of the anthropologists. You know, anthropology is a genocide department. The anthropologists of the Canadian university system are currently still backing Canada, saying that it's not doing a genocide in the residential schools. So that's really awesome that they all have genocidal solidarity in the university systems of the West. That's really gonna do well for the oligarchs that run the hedge funds that pretend to be places of learning that are Western universities, including the one that gave Adrian Zenz a degree, and Jordan Peterson, by the way. Remember, Jordan Peterson has a degree from an accredited university writing word salad into a piece of shit called Maps of Meaning. They give you degrees for that in psychology. The question is not like, why did Jordan Peterson's terrible? I would turn it around and say Canada has a disgusting failed university system if that's the kind of people they give degrees to. And I say this having family members that have accredited PhDs from fucking Canada. And they even said, oh yeah, you can just write any kind of bullshit into a book. And then you defend it in front of 6 other academic feudal tenure, rich multi-million-dollar Vancouver mortgage having fucking tenured old professors, and you just like kiss their ass really hard, and you play this ass kiss game, and you make a bunch of footnotes and do nothing useful. Just write 200,000 just write a 500, 600 page book. Nobody's gonna read it. He even told me that. He said, Chris, you should come to Canada or anywhere in the West. Just join the university system, and they give you all this money. They give you all this. They used to. William Gibson was a professional student for 10 years. He just sat down and wrote papers all day fucking long, right? And he said they'll just give you free money. All you got to do is just write mountains of words that nobody's gonna read except for 6 other people who kiss each other's asses to make sure that they all, in the insider group. It's kind of like DC, but instead of like selling Lockheed Martin jets and bombs, it's just a little club that you're not in. It's a little club called Elite Academia, and then you can join that club. All you got to do is write bullshit and teach kids how to shoot frozen turkeys at Russian MiG jets. Man, it's pretty easy to make a lot of money. And that's why the West will never invent anything ever useful again, because they can't even teach their fucking students. And that could be a new thing. Maybe the university system at one point had some kind of education in it. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. But what I see is multi-million-dollar money launderers like Andrade, professor at the Mr. Professor Andrade, who money launders for Mark Zuckerberg. He's literally a university professor of University of Hawaii, who was the fence to purchase as a local Hawaiian, helping facilitate the purchase of 700 acres of native Hawaiian land, so Mark Zuckerberg can force native Hawaiians like myself off of our ancestral hunting, gathering, medicinal plant gathering, and fishing grounds by suing the state of Hawaii and just being a terrible human being called Mark Zuckerberg, right? Billionaire, MZ2665 virus propagator. Brain virus propagator. So that's the University of Hawaii. They're also the ones that are responsible for destroying Mauna Kea and backing United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People violations on Mauna Kea to the tune of $1 million. David Ige, $3 million for one real estate deal that he got, because everything is there's never been any non-corruption anywhere in the West. There sure as fuck ain't none in the Death Star that is in Honolulu, Hawaii. So anyway, that's what the university is good for, is destroying native Hawaiians further and committing genocide through literal violations on that mountain, backing the U.S. military, teaching Hawaiian kids how to join the military by shooting frozen turkeys at fucking Russian MiG jets. I don't know, shooting frozen turkeys at Chinese hyperdome missiles. I don't think a frozen turkey is going to take down a very advanced missile that the Chinese and the Russians are going to work together to produce, because now you've gone and fucked up with this Australian. Now that, anyways, it's not like they weren't working together already, but they're only further going to work together, and the Russians have the most advanced submarine and missile technology. And America, you should have paid the frozen turkey missile engineers a little more, because now they're all pissed off and then they quit, just like all the Boeing 737 Advanced Adversarial Network programmers who were supposed to be working on the autopiloting systems for Boeing, but they were falling asleep and being fucking they're too busy being malnourished and having low blood sugar because they're being paid $7 an hour, or no, sorry, $9 an hour is what the people who are programming the latest and best Boeing aircraft autopiloting system, that's how much they paid them. The engineers that built the Boeing planes that were all crashing all over the place and they never fly again because they're terrible planes and America is never going to make anything again, they were also paid, they were worked 60, the Cyberpunk 2077 terrible video game that crunched the shit out of its workers with 100-hour work weeks? They're doing the same thing to the Boeing plane makers. And that's why all the nuts and the bolts are falling off the plane. It's like a RC car with a duct tape, it's like a Mountain Dew soda can with a duct taped RC car motor on the side of it that passes for a Boeing plane. I mean, it's not literally that, But I mean, they undercut on the materials, just like the Surfrider Hotel and all the garbage bridges that America can't build, and the Honolulu rail system that took it's 2x over time and like 200% over budget and never going to be finished because America never going to finish anything again before it dies and doesn't exist, and it's a federation of indigenous advanced socialist civilization. The RC, these planes are terrible, and you paid if America could have a more competent global imperial military power projection force. And they'd have buildings that don't collapse and roads and shit for all of its Lockheed Martin executives to drive on. So they wouldn't have to take helicopters like Chilean oligarchs that they backed and supported with Milton Friedman, right? And death squads at the School of the Americas. If you actually paid the people maintaining your stormtroopers, your AR-50, your AT-AT walkers, your Star Destroyers for your empire, you wouldn't have Star Destroyers falling apart like all the rusting ass aircraft carriers that fucking are giant, sitting ducks for the hypersonic missiles, right? But you suck at paying even your own stormtroopers enough to want to come back and do the job, maintaining the infrastructure and the vehicles and the machinery and the apparatuses of the empire. But that's awesome that you do that, because that means that you're going to die faster. And I need you to get the fuck off of Hawaii and the illegal occupation of Hawaii. But so the faster that American military just falls apart along with the rest of America, the faster we can be on the path to exiting the prison of the mind. Not just the prison house of nations, the Hawaiian nation, Guam, Okinawa, the African peoples, the Chicano peoples, the indigenous peoples in Turtle Island, right? The prison house of the mind prison and the physical prison of all these peoples, and the literal 2.5 million for-profit prison slaves that are currently making Amazon vegan and non-vegan Whole Foods cheese for 25 cents an hour and putting out all your wildfires, right? So the prison of the mind, the prison of the bodies, and the prison of the soul, really, of everybody, and the prison of the culture of the West, McDonald's and Gucci and a McDonald's and a Chase Bank yoga studio and a Starbucks on every corner in Seattle, and then you go to New York, same thing. That's a prison house of culture, why does everything have to be identical? That's why nobody can. That's why somebody said, Silver Spook, how can I come to Hawaii and be a good, support Hawaiians while being on vacation? It's like, you can't really, because we're illegally occupied and they control everything they basically control the entire industry. There's no Hawaiian Hui owned aircraft that you can fly on that will benefit Hawaiians, and almost all the hotels is virtually all owned by big foreign capital, especially American, but also Japanese, some of it. I worked in they start with a Y and they rhyme with a uza. And I worked in one of their buildings, but it's missing pinky sometime. Cyberpunk, Asian racist gangster stereotype, cyberpunk mainstay with laser whip fingers coming out of their missing pinkies. And a lot of dragon tattoos. So it's all foreign owned. It doesn't help us. You fly on a plane that's not Hawaiian owned. You come, you want to give Donald Trump money, stay in the Ritz-Carlton in Hawaii. You want to give Goldman Sachs, the private equity firm that stole all of your infrastructure and your future as a millennial or a Gen Z, go stay in the Turtle Bay Resort that they own. You want to give the Mormon billionaires money? You want to give the Latter-day Saints, Mormon pyramid scheme, Amway clowns, coming back to that original topic, you want to give them money? Stay in, go to the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is not really, it's a place that's owned by white, rich fucking Mormons. Or stay in any of the Marriott conglomerate hotels, a global conglomerate, one of the largest in the world, owned by LDS giant corporate overlords. That doesn't help Hawaii. Almost all the labor value is going straight to them. All of these fake Waikiki we're doing bastardizations of our sacred dances and our sacred chants. It doesn't help us at all. I'm sorry, you can't. You know what you can do? You should go on a vacation. I said, go on a vacation to visit the local indigenous tribe that you stand on in America. Visit the local struggling people in America, Canada, in the settler colonial country, if you're coming from one in particular, or visit another area in the United States, but especially the one that you're on. Figure out how you can help liberate those people. That's what you can do. You can't. You can't help. You can't really. If you have an attitude that I just want to go on vacation, and I want you to assuage the guilt that I feel because I hear a lot of Hawaiians asking people to not come to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii anyway because I'm a selfish prick who wants who wants to have Mai Tais on a white sand beach and have some R&R and go and swim with some dolphins and just be an abusive prick in Hawaii and enjoy your land and give money to rich white capitalists, because that's basically what you're going to be doing. And I just want you to make me feel better about myself. And I don't care what color you are. So some other people that are different colors. But if that's your attitude, then you have Western brain virus. You're in the Western mind prison. And you can be indigenous. I say this. You can be indigenous. You could be black. You could be Hispanic. You could be you could be Asian. You could be Vietnamese. Andy knows the Asian. You know what he does? He doxes leftists all day for the fascists in Adamwaffen, right? You can. Vietnamese are deeply colonized people historically. They're one of the most advanced. They're one of the most successful advanced indigenous society with socialist characteristics on Earth. Well, Andy, that's why they use him, is because, well, I'm an oppressed Asian. I'm an oppressed minority. And so, you can have the brain virus. My father is a genocide denier. He believes he's a white Christian Catholic capitalist. And I said, Dad, you're more Asian and Pacific Islander than anything else. And you're not identified as white. People don't think of you as white. Even in Hawaii, they don't think of you as white. They see a Hawaiian, or at best a mixed local. They don't see a white person. But he'll defend to the death, and he's in a ghetto. He's going to die in a ghetto, sad and poor and broke with his wife, who is told to straighten her hair because her hair don't look professional for being too curly. And she has, but that's the I know that this is a deep mind prison because I've had to live in that system of being told that I'm just I'm like a white person, but not quite. I'm 3/5 of a human being, and I could be. But since I went to a $20,000 a year private school because my dad taught there, not because we have money, to try to get his children ahead in the Western barbarism system, right? So I've grown up in the brain prison, the mind prison, of being told that you are a white, that America is the best country. Hawaiians were backward savages, and they're all gone now anyway. And America saved them from their lack of electricity and roads, right? And this is all illusory history, all lies, right? I've gone over this history many times, so I don't want to go over it every single time. Hawaii is the most literate country on earth. Electricity in the Hawaiian capital before the White House, etc. Invented 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea style submarines before the book was even published by Jules Verne. Speaking of science fiction, so these are all lies that were told to us, and I lived in that mind prison for much of my life, probably until I was in my 20s. I had splinters in my mind, to use a Matrix metaphor, but like something is off here. Like, if this is the greatest country in the world, why are there so much poverty and homelessness and starvation and racism and maltreatment? We say we have racial equality, but I see racial inequality. I see Hawaiians being maltreated. There's all these cognitive dissonance everywhere. You can't open your mouth and speak the stormtrooper language that is English and Spanish and French, all the colonizer Euro languages. You can't say the word civilization without saying oxymorons, because the word civilization, literally, it was defined. I was just talking to a friend of the show, Mesh. Shout out to Mexi and Mesh. I'm going to be on the Mexi show in the near future, by the way. Mesh 9000, who said, like, I'm working on this. I'm working on this thing, paper assignment. I don't want to give too much specifics, but I was working on. I want that quote about civilization and indigenous people, and how indigenous people actually practice what the West calls communism before they even had it. And I was like, yeah, I know, I got that somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. And and I was looking through, and I found that as the U.S. Commissioner of Indian Affairs said in 1838, the U.S. Commissioner of Indian Affairs said, common property and civilization cannot coexist. Right? So civilization, right, which is built on, right, if you mutual assistance and the benefiting the collective good, which is what socialist advanced civilizations have always done, indigenous civilizations have done, not perfectly, but more so than private property enforced by mass violence and mass disinformation, right, like, which is what I'm talking about, the Western brain virus, imperial, the core, the beating black heart of the imperial way of being, right, is that mass violence and mass disinformation, right, and forcing one's ways onto other people's imperialism, right? So common property and civilization cannot coexist, and so, but this is already nonsensical, because the civilizations, right? It's suggesting that racialized capitalism is civilization, right? Whiteness, right, which we all know is Western it's like what actual barbarism is. We all can see that now, is civilization. So it's already, you can't even open your mouth and speak English sentences without being completely contradictory. But that's part of living in a perpetual neural discombobulation, right? Perpetual neural wire entangling. It's like it's what I call it the quantum Western brain, right? It's Schrodinger's Uyghur. Is it oppressed or is it bombed, right? If it's 2017, then we're bombing them, killing them, and we're attacking China of saying, why aren't they giving them enough opportunities and why aren't they stopping radicalization? And then in 2019, 2020, it's like, now it's Schrodinger's, well, we're going to stop bombing them for now, for a little bit, delist ETIM from the extreme, the East Turkestan Islamic movement, who were blowing up en masse and pushing them into Urumqi, into Xinjiang, and then suddenly, oh my God, the Uyghurs are so oppressed by the Chinese government, right? So it's whatever the richest, most powerful entities. Now, of course, the military-industrial complex heads of the empire of the United States. They're the ones that are deciding when the Schrodinger's Uyghur, right? Schrodinger's civilization. Are these civilized or uncivilized? Okay, wait, simply. The UN defines genocide, right? I remember this, another very important one. It's a very important thing. I haven't talked about this in a while, so I wanted to bring this up. The civilized countries of the United States are defined in the Geneva Convention, defined by the United Nations, as, let's see, where the hell, I lost that quote. United Nations definition of genocide. It was after World War II. They defined genocide. Genocide established in Article 1. Genocide may take place in the context of armed conflict, international, I'm trying to get the exact quote here. Genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, such as killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. And then there's another sentence, though, in that same document. Where the hell is it? Trying to find the exact document. It talks about who the civilized nations are. All right. It talks about civilized society. Yeah. But anyway, basically what it says, I don't have it right now, but that is the definition of genocide under the United Nations, right? But then after that, it says these crimes of genocide are horrific atrocities which are not practiced by the civilized nations, right? But in the UN, right, in all its documents, who are the civilized nations, right? The United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, France, Germany, Britain, right? All the Western countries are the civilized nations, right? And it says the civilized nations do not practice genocide. Have the United States ever, you have terrible Western history, I know, but just even in your terrible, illusory bullshit American history books or French history books that are all written by America, apparently. That's why 75% of them think that America won instead of Russia and China, World War II. Anyways, so but have the United States ever, in large, killed members of a group, caused serious bodily harm to members of the group, inflicted conditions of life calculated to bring physical destruction, right? Imposed measures to prevent births within a group, forcibly transferred children from group to another group. In Canada is currently undergoing this process. This is like the first time anybody's ever been even attempted to be held to account. Canada, there's 200, up near 200 changes that Canada must do according to the UN to rectify its genocidal, its guilt of genocide, right? In residential schools in particular, but not exclusively. The social work system, taking and forcibly transferring countless thousands of indigenous children from mothers and fathers to often abusive foster parents, intended to destroy the indigenous cultures, right? Of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Haida, etc., right? Canada is guilty. Canada has only done 9 of these things. It doesn't even give a shit. Justin Trudeau has taken $100 million worth of taxpayer money and suing Indigenous survivors of its genocide. That's what Canada sees fit to do. The UN is also kind of a joke. I mean, it doesn't enforce anything. I mean, I wish it would. I wish that the UN got better. That's why China, Russia, Vietnam, Laos, Cuba, Iran, a bunch of other group of friends countries are coming together to try to make an alternative in a kind of counter-hegemonic, hey, UN, you fucking clown organization, actually enforce some of the international law measures. The UN is part of the problem is the UN is headquartered in the United States, and the United States does whatever it wants to any of its allies. When Germany's Angela Merkel, right, the biggest powerhouse of the so-called great EU, gets her phone tapped and spied on, or ally get it spied on, by the United States, Merkel just bends over and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll speak slower next time so you can hear everything I'm saying. I'm so sorry." There's portions of these countries. They tried to, Germany, Sweden, and a bunch of other European countries attempted to even invest. Not even. They didn't come to any conclusions. They ordered an independent investigation into war crimes in Afghanistan about a year or 2 years ago. And they were all threatened. Their families were threatened. In fact, Mike Pompeo personally threatened the CIA director, Trump's ex-CIA director and administrator at the time, threatened all of the families of Angela Merkel and Swedish, French, and all the other European countries that were attempting to investigate war crimes in Afghanistan. He said, "You will do no such thing. You will do no such thing not in The Hague, not in the International Criminal Court, not in the UN. No, you are not going to investigate any war crime. If you try, we'll come for you and your families." So that's the United States. Everyone in Europe, these are all like, "Oh my God, we gave birth to this thing." Well, yeah, you're a bunch of sick fucking failures over there. You're all colonizers over there. Look what you did. Now you're all subjected to its military-industrial complex and it waving its nuclear dick around in your face and saying, and all it's going like, we're gonna wipe your family, we're gonna attack your family. Europeans, French executives, America, they don't want to talk about this, but America kidnapped multiple French kidnapped. Meng Wanzhou, which is also a crime. They did the same thing to Japanese executives. They wanted to crush when America was challenged by Japan, economic in its massive boom. The band The Boom, which wrote a very good song about the war crimes America does in Okinawa, Shima Uta. I sang it on stream a little while ago, a couple streams ago. It's named after the Japanese boom. And America destroyed the Japanese boom because it can't, even in its allies, it cannot handle not being the greatest full spectrum dominant power, And so it kidnapped Japanese. It did the same thing, but it did the same thing to even French, even German executives, I believe. Definitely French executives were kidnapped, threatened, imprisoned illegally for years. It would be a war crime. And if Britain did that to France, just kidnap the head of, like, if the Hudson's Bay Company were kidnapped by French colonial warship or something, that would be war. They would fight another 7 years war, 30 years war, 100-year war, one of these stupid European Western barbarous bullshit wars that they always fighting, killing each other, getting better at gun shooting so they can go to China. And that's the only reason why the West is where it is now. It's a failing cancer that's going to be eradicated soon by the chemotherapy of the advanced indigenous civilizations like China. But if they did what they did to France, if the U.S. did what it did to France in 100 years ago, 200 years ago, this would be all-out war. It would be another war, horrific war. But America did that to France. It kidnapped multiple of its executives to destroy Sony, Ericsson, and the big techs, big telecommunications and high tech, and I believe 4G. But other big tech French corporations were getting beyond, were getting more advanced in the United States, and so rather than doing quote unquote capitalism, or rather than like just economically competing, making better products, what they did was they just had U.S. agents go and had the U.S. just kidnap French executives, put them in a cell, and just basically destroy the valuations of these corporations rather than compete. Did the same thing to Japanese. Meng Wanzhou it's a crime, but this would start a war at any other time, but. We can't really fight them because we shouldn't. To be clear, China, we should not start no wars because China, the one of the C-suite executives of one of the largest and most successful worker-owned cooperatives, the largest Hui in the world, similar to Super Spook Games, 98,000 worker owners. Ren Zhengfei's less than 1% ownership. The founder of Huawei, that Canada currently holds, because Canada is just a little bitch of the United States, a little puppet, a little failed, little sad stain on the indigenous people up there in so-called Canada. And so because Canada does whatever America's military-industrial complex wants, they kidnapped Meng Wanzhou to try to slow down the most successful actual socialist project on earth. Even from a Richard Wolffian and Michael Hudson and a lot of the left, the modern left perspective, which we want more worker cooperatives, which is democracy in the workplace. We want more democracy in what we produce, how we produce, what to do with the profits, etc. Without a C-suite of executive tyrants elected by the major shareholders, 80 to 90% of which are millionaires and billionaires, and we don't want that tyranny of the workplace. We want democracy in the workplace. Huawei is one of the most successful examples of that, and what is Canada doing? Destroying it for the United States. And also committing crimes against. That's not a war crime, but that is a violation of international law. It's a major human rights violation of international law, and incredibly dangerous. But Canada is doing that because Canada wants $90 billion worth of nuclear submarine deals, like Australia, because Canada is three mining companies in a trench coat, wearing a stupid hat, carrying a gun. And mining and oil companies, because the black media and all of these CGL, Coastal GasLink Pipeline, all these disgusting tar sand fracking, indigenous missing and murdered indigenous women causing oil companies, and their man camps are horrific. Also stains all over, black stains put there by a black snake all over Canada, and these are all failed, dying, fake countries like Canada that are going to go away soon. You know why? Because land back is the only way you're going to get housing, healthcare, and your basic needs met ever. As the West and its barbarism dies. It's like COVID-19 going away. COVID-19, like eventually it has to exit your system. You die or it stops dominating your body, right? So we have to get rid of this garbage. Not the people, just the brain virus is very important. The whiteness itself is a brain virus. It's a construct solely to maintain an oppressor class over the oppressed for the benefit of little mini kings, mini lords, right? They're called white men. The ones that can buy into and identify into white supremacy in America and Canada and the settler colonial world. So anyways, back to this whole the genocide. What is genocide? What is genocide? What is civilization? These words, they constantly lie. The words' meanings come about by the multi-billions of people that have used them historically for centuries, right? And the words take on new meanings the more that they're used, right? So you can take, I'm a dialectical semiotician. That's why I hate the fucking fact that cyberpunk. So the word cyberpunk means Keanu Reeves with a cyber arm bending down, doing a John Wick impression, saying, "Wake the fuck up, we got a city to burn," and a bunch of shitty ass Grand Theft Auto skin with 80s retro future, oppressing horribly all the capitalist game companies' workers. That's what cyberpunk means. It's a shitty, worthless video game that everybody worships in the West because the West has no fucking good anything, let alone video games. It only has military recruitment simulators like Battlefield 2042 and Call of Duty. So all these garbage shithole video games are about killing brown people in a place, or yellow people that America wants to kill in. Like, that's what Battlefield 2042 is, like, time to make war it's war in the South China Sea and the Belt and Road. That's what Battlefield 2042 is, and cause Category 7 hurricanes to plunge the world back into climate and economic chaos, right? That's why, don't read any doomer white man books about how the world's all going to go to shit. Like, however bad it gets, we will survive this because your shitty white man civilizations your shitty white man non-civilizations are going to die. So stop reading that doomer bullshit. The indigenous future is going to happen. Whether a bunch of sad white rich middle class 40-year-olds doomering out reading black pill bullshit, and quantum fluctuating between incel to fake sock them leftist. Oh, now I'm a Nazi Gamergate 4chan asshole. Oh, now I'm fixed because I put a Baby Yoda with a laser eye, or a Kropotkin with a laser eye and an ACAB in my bio. Now I'm all fixed. Oh, now I'm a Nazi again. Oh, now I'm a new patriotic American socialist. These are all useless, failed non-solutions. You have to land the fuck back. You have to undo You have to dig the full tumor out. You have to go to the deepest depths of the brain poison. You know, it's just like saying, well, I sneezed and a bunch of COVID-19 came out of my nose and now I don't have COVID-19. No, you got rid of, 7 million, so you got rid of 7 million viral particles from your nose. Yes, but it's in your lungs. It's like, well, I coughed like 100 times and all the blood and mucus came out of my lungs. So now I don't have COVID-19. No, you hurt yourself, right? Failing to do suck them solutions and American Patriot, this and that. And you're still infected with it, but you got some of it out. Maybe so there's a little bit of equality maybe in the 50s, but I mean, with the women are Stepford wives and they're fucking peasants for their racist, sexist husbands, and all the black people are subhumanized and they're all treated like crap, and everyone else and the rest of the world is all on fucking fire, and you're just rebuilding capitalism and colonialism again, and well, America's all fixed in the 50s because we had a New Deal and this is all great. No, you didn't fix shit. You just coughed you killed a lot of people with your Western barbarism in World War II. Which wouldn't, by the way, if it wasn't for colonialism and capitalism and mass acquisitions of vast quantities of wealth and these inequalities in societies, all the world wars would not be happening. But the West can't figure out how to not mass murder hundreds of millions of people with capitalism, with world wars, with, German panzer tanks, bullets, and, aircraft and bombs that made by Ford for the military industrial complex, right? And that's why Hitler had a picture of Ford on the wall. The West can't figure out how to not kill each other, and especially kill black and brown and global South people. So we're all better now. You're not all better now, right? You're not all better now. Now you're just in the you're in the shithole neoliberal era, and you coughed a little bit of the phlegm out. You coughed a couple Hitlers out. You left in place 70% of the fucking Nazis that ran Germany afterwards. You left in place all of your biggest war criminals. Nobody was punished. Just like 2008. Oh, we fixed the banking. We fixed the American financial system after the 08-09 financial crisis. Because what? Because Obama did what? What did he do exactly? Did any of them go to fucking prison? Did JP Morgan Chase's CEO, the Goldman Sachs CEO, see any fucking time? Did the HSBC money launderers who fucking laundered for money? The CIA, the U.S. empire made Al Qaeda, but they were money laundering for Al Qaeda, technically a crime against the United States and treason under the laws. HSBC did that for Hezbollah. Al Qaeda was increased the size of its fucking bank teller windows to like 2 feet tall, so that blood, like multi-thousand person murdering drug cartels in Mexico could shuffle stacks of $100 blood-soaked and cocaine-soaked $100 bills to the fucking bank teller windows. And what did Mr. Eric Holder do for that? Did anybody? No. There has been zero treatment for the entire, and that's not even the worst crimes. The ongoing colonialism never stopped, right? The world war narrative is white Western illusory historiography. That's a bunch of bullshit. The real war is the colonial war, the colonizer versus colonized, global South versus global North, global East versus global West war. That has been on and nonstop. It has never stopped for multiple centuries. That's the real world war. White Western upper middle class fucking clowns call things world wars when their masters, the plutocrats that run their failed European, American, Canadian, New Zealand, Australian societies, need to airbrush all the actual crimes that they've done and go, you see, well, we got rid of the Nazis, so we're all fixed. That's like the Democrats and the liberals, all the narco traffickers going, you see, Donald Trump's gone, now we're all better because we have a nice, polite Biden to, But if you listen to them carefully and they say the quiet part out loud, like for example, Ben Rhodes, former cabinet member of Barack Obama, who said the Trump-Rubio doctrine, he correctly, because he wanted a job in the Biden current empires, Star Destroyers, and Death Star. He wanted a Death Star. He wanted a Death Star, power switch, tractor beam control job, lucrative job in D.C. And Mr. Rhodes said the Trump-Rubio doctrine of incompetent imperialism is a wind in the sails of the Latin American left. That's his exact quote. So the actual imperialism, the actual highest crimes of capitalism, which includes fascism within it, I would argue, the highest destruction, killing, enslavement, suffering, and oppression of Earth, and also the Aina, the mother, the nature, the great dragon, as some of the Chinese would say, the greatest crushing of Earth ecologically and of all the people on it comes out of the Democratic Party, and the liberals, the successful ones. Trump accelerated the decline of the United States by 7 years. So anyways, so that's all part of the mind prison, the real matrix, right? The matrix that has you is your public, private, and charter school history book. You know? That's why we have to do home education in the failed United States, because you can't send your kid to a school without child abuse. I mean, not just like the rampant bullying and toxic behavior that happens there. Not just being trained to be a rote, bubble filling Ford Model T assembly line working little cog in a capitalist machine, sitting down taking orders from the abusive tyrannical authority. Not in, as Richard Wolff would say, a democratized workplace where each person within the office, the restaurant, the factory is equal and has equal say. No, that's not how schools are. Schools are not democracies. Are you kidding me? They're training you to be a cog in a future capitalist McDonald's, office, hotel, Chase Bank, Starbucks, yoga studio, Mr. Anderson, fucking cubicle farm doing TPS reports for Exxon. It doesn't matter what you're being physically, mentally, spiritually, libidinally, I would argue, culturally, and definitely educationally poisoned and trained when you send your kid to any American or any Western school. They are all garbage, And the worst part is you're going to learn that Thomas Jefferson was a great man. Because, again, 26, 28, I think it's up to 30 plus states have banned 1619 critical race theory, and that's not even as radical as you need. That's not radical. That's not even true enough history and true enough economics that you need in a school system. It's mandatory to learn Marxism in Vietnam and in China. Even though sometimes it's a little watered down, and I have listened to Chinese people say they need to really get more revolutionary education, but and people don't understand and know enough, and they need to know more. But still, you're required to learn full Marxian economics at each level of multiple grade levels. It's not like you just learn it one time and then it's gone. Marxian analysis and the true history of Vietnam and China, right? You must, and not just in the world. You know who America is. You know what capitalism is. You know what socialism is, right? You can see how capitalistic elements, like the 4 billionaires in Vietnam, the $30 million Shanghai tower owners and the massive conglomerates with Western investors bidding up the price of Shanghai real estate so that Shanghai, gas station attendants and, Weibo workers and the gig economy drivers, are suffering. And you can see how that's happening. I mean, America doesn't have an education system, right? America has a conditioning system that tells you capitalism is the best thing since sliced bread. Socialism, stop asking questions. Just shut the fuck up. If you keep saying words, you're never going to work in America. You can go join all the untenured professors in the 20th century. You can never get a job because we're going to find out on LinkedIn that you're leftist and you're never going to get hired at a bank, corporation, the CIA fucking stenographer facility, marketing department, being a lawyer for Apple, defending the fortunes of billionaires. That's the only jobs that are going to pay anything, right? Is jobs that defend their oligarchies and their neo-feudal lords, right? So if you want any of those jobs, take all that left anything out of all your bios. Never look into that. And if you do, you're going to be in big trouble. And then you're just going to be a sad, maybe you'll go to Guantanamo Bay for being a fucking communist, in the new Red Scare, the old Red Scare, the new Red Scare, right? So there's no education system. There's no information. There's no history in the West. It's all illusory still, And when you try to say true history, you go into a cage with Assange. When you try to say the truth about military, collateral murder, right? I mean, this is just, it's like, oh my goodness, study shows 90% of drone strikes are killing civilians. What happens to people who say that kind of thing? Just try to reveal that. You go to prison for years. You go in a dark cage. You get $1,000 a day fines for being held in contempt of court. This is the same that had to do. This is the Voltaires of this present. America's not really doing anything new. This is what the West does. That's just America. All of Europe, this is how they are. If you say any true thing that challenges their mass violence and mass disinformation based barbarism, you are punished and you go away. Freedom of speech is a lie. There's only been rich, white, male speech. That's the only speech that's never been free. You're free to say anything as long as you don't say, hey, I'm from China and actually I like the fact that they alleviated 850 million people's poverty and they have a very good system that's doing better and they have 200 times less deaths from COVID-19 and they have everything's open, their economy isn't suffering. And I think that's good, you know? And then you know what America does? It says, you're a CCP shill, your student visa is disqualified, you're fired as a professor at Berkeley, and now we're gonna prosecute you. Donald, I think it's like every like day, there are dozens of Asians that are just getting prosecuted. So there's no, freedom of speech is a lie. There's never been any freedom of speech. You're free to say anything. You're free to repeat and regurgitate any bullshit that the West has thrown into your ear hole. Anything outside of that, you will be severely punished in some way or another, right? You will be severely punished if you say, you know, I mean, unless you are really far away and disconnected from a lot of the court. If I lost multiple jobs for just saying true things about institutions in Hawaii. One of them was Iolani, massive fucking Emperor Palpatine training facility, overpriced piece of shit school. That is the kind of schools that China is currently cracking down on. They're saying like, we don't want to have these elite Ivy League feeder schools with exorbitant prices that are making our educational outcomes of our students unequal as the other ones fall through the crack, like all the schools in Hawaii. And so, you know, at a point, there's a point where I could have had a really good, high-paying job at one of these shitty-ass private schools. And all I had to do is just play ball and don't criticize any of these shitty-ass Emperor Palpatine training facilities that crush the mental health and physical health of the children, so that they can get 1600 SATs, so be really good at coloring bubbles and doing really hyper-specific versions of calculus that they'll never use in their life. Because what they're going to be doing when they graduate from Harvard is just writing shitty articles for the New York Times, right? To pay back their unpayable student loan. They're not going to use the calculus and the AP calculus and the trigonometry and the number theory and the AP English and all this bullshit that you have to take to get into an Ivy League school. See, if you're the trick is, the real way to get into Ivy League school is just be the son of George H.W. Bush, you know, or just be like Elon Musk's son, right? And then you just pay $6.5 million to Photoshop your face onto the volleyball player, as if you're, and then also have an underpaid non-white student who is actually good at school take the SAT for you, or just forge your SAT numbers or something, and then just shuffle you into, that's how much, $6.5 million is how much it costs to get into Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. So that's how you get in, is you just be born unto the wealthiest fucking pricks in the earth, and just die and be born again. Believe in reincarnation, die and then be born again. That's how you get into Harvard, you know, and then rub shoulders with Larry Summers. So anyways, so that's the mind prison, you know. Schools are places that build the mind prison in the West. And I hate to say that because I know people who work in schools. I'm not saying you have to quit your university or quit your school. I know people that I'm going to be talking to that work in universities and they work in schools. The university professors deserve, there are some that try to do their best. They deserve to be paid more than fucking $9 an hour to be permanent adjuncts. That's why we housed American university white. I mean, we don't care what color. We housed white American university professors for accredited, like Michigan State, you know, UW, you know, somebody was teaching at, I don't want to put anyone on blast because that's not what this is about. Teaching full-time at an American university, living in a vehicle, living in a car, homeless. But every American is a temporarily embarrassed millionaire, even the ones that have degrees in literal Marxism, like Marxian philosophy and economics. Very sad. But anyways, we house them. It shouldn't be the case that Hawaiians in the least colonized parts of Hawaii, namely Big Island, Molokai, the east side anyway, you know, have to house impoverished university professors. I'm not saying, you know, it would be great if you could just teach math, technology, engineering. You could just teach your craft and educate children and adults and people, and then be properly remunerated and not worry about your basic needs, you know? Like the wildcat striking UC, UW, San Diego, and Berkeley professors circa 2019, who all got their Janet Napolitano, ex-Homeland Security officer under Mr. Obama, sent the SWAT cops and the knights of neo-feudalism, right? They break the legs for the lords, the capitalist lords, the university mortgage debt lords, the student debt lords, right? They should change the word landlord if they don't want to be fucking seen as fucking feudal, fake progression from feudalism to capitalism, as though that somehow got better. It's not, never has. You know, and so all of these students were beaten up by the California police departments at the order of Napolitano, making massive multi-six-figure salaries, along with all the administrators of all these colleges, right? professors went on wildcat strike for asking for just basic living wages, you know? And so the solution is not like, well, we should just abolish universities. I don't think that's the solution, right? I'm trying to backpedal. I'm not backpedal, man. I'm just trying to like, I go very hard on the entire Western world because they deserve it. And at the end of the day, it all has to kind of just like, much must be dismantled before anything can be rebuilt. It's not salvageable, but there should be a world in which you can teach, like in China or Vietnam, you could teach in a school or a university, educate people, and then not worry about starving to death and ration out cans of bumblebee tuna. I say this as a teacher who lived in a Mazda tribute and ate spoonfuls of peanut butter for dinner because we couldn't afford anything more. We spent like $50 a week on food. I was a full-time teacher and a social worker. It should be the case that anywhere in the so-called advanced first world, so-called civilized nations, there's no such thing as civilization. Is just a bogus word at this point. In these so-called advanced civilizations, there should be, like America, Canada, you should be able to just like educate and teach and nurture and empower children to be the best that they can be, you know, and to be future technologists, scientists, renewable technology inventors, doctors, nurses, right? Working class producers of the wealth and the roads and the streets and the houses that we all need to live in, right? You should be able to do that and not starve, right? So, you know, the solution is, you know, but America and Canada will never allow this to happen. You will always be you will be working for a institution that is a hedge fund. It is a yacht payment scheme masquerading as a place where children are learning. The children can do some learning, but the important thing is the yacht payment scheme. I say nonprofits, same thing. There's no nonprofits in America are for-profit, money laundering, tax deductible, senator, congressman, and bribe-paying machine. That's what a nonprofit is. You know how I know that? Because I work for them too. You know, every sector, corporate, government, nonprofit, these in the United States is just completely, utterly. Nonprofit is some of the worst because people think that they're somehow good. That's like the last. That's the Bill Gates, the BG2655 Western barbarism variant is the nonprofit. It's a very stealthy, you know. It's like imagine COVID-19 that can evade the human immune system by, like, speaking of cyberpunk, like a Quang MK5 virus, you know, a super advanced Chinese virus. That's the one thing true about cyberpunk, you know, is that the Chinese were building the most advanced things. At least William Gibson got that correct. The Quang MK virus that looks at the intrusion and countermeasures electronics, right? The ice on the massive server wall, right, of the Militech Corp or the Tessier Ashpool geosynchronous orbit mega bank of all of their information and their financial transactions, and housing hundreds of clones of 3Jane and the Tessiers and the Ashpools. And this virus that makes itself look stealthily like it replicates and it mirrors like a chameleon, right? Whatever the information system that it's intending to intrude. So if it's green, it turns itself green. It makes itself look like a fission authority audit, right? Is that what we're looking for, an audit? Well, I'm an audit, right? It makes itself look like whatever the system is attempting to defend against, and then it becomes, and it slowly infects and it replicates and it infiltrates. You know, this is the Cold War. So this is a very fun Cold War metaphor. You know, it's like body snatchers, right? Oh, the Russians are all going to come and they're going to be sleeper agents, just like Black Widows. It's a bunch of new Cold War bullshit. That's a terrible fucking movie. But anyway, so we're gonna become who you are, right? It's like Russians coming in, Chinese coming in. They're Chinese student spies. They're acting like they're like frozen turkey rocket launcher shooters at Russian MiG jets. They're pretending to be very advanced engineers at Lockheed Martin that love American apple pie and French fries, and they sing the Star Spangled Anthem and tear up, but they're fake Chinese tears. They're all CCP Chinese spies from China. They're all 5G co-op. They're gonna kill us all. And so anyway, so that's what Quang is like. You know, this virus that goes in and stealthily becomes just like you. You can't even tell. You're looking at your neighbor, right? Under the Stetson, it might be a red communist, and oh my God. And then the Quang becomes, but the real infiltration is not really coming from Russia, China. You know, that's not really where it's coming from. I'm not to say that there's no spying. There's a lot of people from a lot of large entities looking at each other in various ways, right? Cuba included. They got it. Otherwise, Castro would have been assassinated 700 times. So, anyways, but this the virus that looks and it becomes who you are. But the real infiltration, the thing that is looking at you and becoming who you are, so you can't tell the difference, right? Is Bill Gates. Bill Gates is Western barbarisms, the empire's Quang MK5, super advanced class warfare weapon, right? Oh, look at him. He's just like me, right? He's just a regular Joe with his little haircut, you know? He's just a regular old human, just like me. No, he's not a reptilian overlord, or Illuminati space demon or something. No, he's just like a regular working class person. Bill Gates, just a regular person. I mean, he's human, but he's pretty terrible, for one of them, and so he's just a regular guy, He just wants to do good, and I could be Bill Gates any day, and we're all temporarily embarrassed future Bill Gateses and Musks. And also, look how nice he is. Like, he's giving money to cure malaria. He's putting all this money to investigate the serial diseases. So it's making you look at him, and it's making you go, right? Because cyberpunk is a cautionary tale that attempted with Gibson and Sterling and Bruce Bethke and a song called Youth and all these great cyberpunk works, and like The Matrix, right? It's attempting to inoculate you against the NL 2655 Western barbarism variant, neoliberalism era, right? Mass commodification, trafficking instead of narco into the mouths of Chinese and the bodies of Chinese to destroy Chinese bodies for silk and tea. It's trafficking. It's trafficking. It's trafficking recuperated Bob Dylan anthems and rock and roll music into the minds through marketing of Whopper consumers going, you want another 25 Whoppers, any way you want it, get the dun. It's like, oh, you don't need just one Whopper. You don't need just a steak. You need 25 Whoppers. You don't need one shirt. You need a polka dot shirt, polka square shirt. Get a Reebok, get an Adidas, Reebok, get 25 other shirts, get a Prada, get a Gucci, right? And the neoliberal, and to mass consume the whole planet based on copper that was sucked out of neocolonial mines in Chile, sticking inside a lot of the copper that was used for all the computer circuits that are taking all this international financial transactions and sticking them in the mega banks in New York City. Cyberpunk, which is based on computer technology, right? It's like cyberspace. It's the space inside of the digital world. That's what a lot of it's about. And so cyberpunk was kind of like, wait, we're all becoming these as Mr. Lawrence Summers would say, we're all systems analysts, right? Sitting around at our systems, typing out TPS reports, and also like making sure that mass, digitized transactions are coming back from Chile, from Bolivia, from Africa after we crushed them and colonized them in the form of SWIFT, international reserve currency, splurges of information across the planet, bouncing off of satellites into the Federal Reserve of New York's bank, which controls the international world reserve currency of the US dollar. And so programmers became central to that, right? Who are managing all these the digital financial transactions. And cyberpunk was about like, how are these, what are these computers going to do to us as people, human and machine integration, the human civilization, what will we become if we all have robotic parts, and how we're all becoming machines and this and that, and also what is the digital technology going to do to us, and this neoliberal mass hyper overconsumption beyond what even is needable, what beyond what is necessary, right? Through marketing, through advertising, right? And that's all the ads and the giant geisha and the giant Adidas giving you cancer, floating over, blasting at 100 million watts into your face. You've got all of this Coca-Cola ads everywhere, all over the side of the cyberpunk walls. That's a lot of the graphic is kind of like trying to identify what the hell are we doing here, right? Luna pointed out, like, look at all these ads in America. Look how awesome this is. And look at sad Vietnam. It's just a city with no ads everywhere. And then the American will turn around and go, oh my God, there's ads everywhere. Let me make pink and purple Tokyo skyline and call it cyberpunk by throwing ads everywhere. Giant geishas, and eat more Whoppers, buy more jeans, have more Adidas, overconsume iPhones, burn the planet by overconsuming blood mineral filled fucking useless fucking gadgets that are made in sweatshops in India, because that's the fucking vassal that didn't do it right like China. Oh my God, what the fuck? Why is there ads everywhere, right? And you make dystopias about how there's ads everywhere, and then you look at China and you look at base North Korea, like, here's the food shop, here's the taco shop. You don't need why do you need fucking ads everywhere, But this is the white quantum brain. They're like, oh my man, there are ads on my toilet paper. I'm gonna write dystopian fiction where there's ads on my toilet paper. Cory Doctorow, fucking ads on my desk. I've got Prada sales when I'm opening up my cabinet to get a fork. The fork is telling me, oh, you food, you want a fork? Eat some more, devour, meat lovers dinner. Oh my God, there's ads on everything. Ah! And then you look at China. Oh my God, they're so despotic. They need more ads on everything. Why don't the North Korean, Vietnamese, and East Asians have ads on everything? That's so despotic and authoritarian. This is the quantum Western brain. It's Schrodinger's advert. Do you want the advert or do you not want the advert? Do you want the advert? Do you not want the advert? Right? You want the advert when the advert people that make you want it say that you want it, and then when you're just writing dystopian fiction, being a sad boy incel, then it's like, well, I don't want it. I'm gonna go play Cyberpunk 2077 and think about how this is so dystopian, and I don't want it. But then I want it again. But then I don't want. But then I want it again, and then I don't. But the fuck, and then you just destroy yourself and get COVID-19 in the office that you work using Chilean stolen copper and Bolivian lithium in your shitty iPhone. The Huawei one's better anyways, made by Worker Cooperative as well, more ethical. Anyways, so I have talks for approximately 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I think I talked about Cyberpunk, but that's part of the mind prison. Even Cyberpunk itself, as the great Silver Spook once said, not as the normal human Silver Spook once said, you gotta, when you're a cyborg transhuman, time traveler from 30 years in the future trying to stop apocalypse, you gotta tell people that you're a normal human. Act normal. As the normal human Silver Spook once said, the sad part, the paradox of Cyberpunk dystopia 2021, in which giant mega corporations ruin everything with predatory imperial capitalism, is that even the cyberpunk genre itself, which initially was about critiquing these failed systems, is destroyed and eaten by this giant imperial capitalism. The only saving grace is that cyberpunk will actually be good again. See, people ask, like, Silver Spook, what's the good cyberpunk game? What's the good cyberpunk game? Well, the Chinese and indigenous people and the actual revolutionaries, they're going to be making the good ones. I have a lot of faith that there will be some good ones that come out of Vietnam and China. Only ones that come out of the Western world, like CD Projekt Red's fucking crushing hyper-capitalist EA on steroid. See, CD Projekt Red is very much the Quang MK5 virus class warfare weapon of oligarchy, right? Because CD Projekt Red said, we aren't like EA, right? We're better. We're better than Activision, right? Because you got all this shade from an IG. You got Jim Stephanie Sterling. You've got all these YouTube channels making correctly and accurately pointing out the horrible systems and the abuses of the consumers, as well as the producers of the video games, microtransactions, loot boxes, loot crates, online gambling. What is China doing? Fucking shutting all that down, going, hey kids, you're not going to get addicted to these online loot crate shit. But again, the Western, oh my God, the techie authoritarian despot China is stopping kids from buying shitty ass AAA military recruiting simulators called big business video games. It's like, it's again, quantum is just Schrodinger's AAA video game, right? Are these shit or are these good? Do you want it or you don't want it? Well, I want to be abused and have shitty video games and have my entire culture destroyed and have kids spending all the time and not getting any fucking sleep and getting ripped off $600 spending on a FIFA soccer, bending it like Beckham upgrades on my shitty EA game character, ruining my daddy's credit score in London. I want that. I don't like that. But we're trying to imagine that is authoritarian freedom. Is it a problem or is it not? New York Times, Bloomberg, CNN, MSNBC, they're all writing about how this is a huge problem. Video games are going to dominate everything, and this is a really big problem. Oh my God, these microtransactions and all these predatory practices are a huge problem for the employees and for the consumers of video games. What are we going to do about this? Oh my God, stop doing things about it, China. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. 0809 financial crisis, we're all imploding, and then our entire society is run by fucking banksters that didn't get punished because America never punishes anything. Oh, what are we going to do? China, stop punishing the system that's destroying us. Oh my God. But that's part of why you don't have this constant cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is only good if you need to undo, you have to sit with discomfort if you have terrible things wrong with your entire so-called civilization, your society, your culture, who you are, right? And the cognitive dissonance, right? That splinter in your brain is only really necessary. Like, they're constantly going like, what the fuck? How, this doesn't make any sense. This is like, right? That's all of Western comedy is just like pointing out all of the infinite incoherences, right? Because you know, but there should be less like, oh my God, that's funny. Oh my goodness, that's dystopian. It's like everybody kind of knows it's dystopian, but there should be more like trying to like learn from places in the world, like indigenous advanced 3,000-year-old civilizations that have resisted imperialism and have base socialist actual characteristics. Trying to learn from the places that have actually done something about the virus. Stop making jokes about how you have COVID-19. Like, oh, you took a. I'm not saying don't joke about it. That would be hypocritical because I'm joking about it in this stream, right? But if all you do is go, oh my God, look at Joe Rogan. Why don't you shoot up some more ivermectin? Ha ha ha! You're stupid. Ha ha ha! You know. Oh my God, Joe Rogan, why don't you marry the horse like Caligula? Actually, that's a good joke. That's pretty good. You know, Caligula married the horse, Joe Rogan shooting ivermectin, right? Shooting horse dewormer. Very, very similar. What, you know, inject that horse marriage straight into my veins, ivermectin, right? It's just a modern Caligula. So that's you know, you can joke about it, but also it's like maybe like learn from the people who like do shit about it. Now, it's less cognitive incoherence copium when you're just, which is what comedy is in the doomering out Western world. It's less, you know, of that. It's more like, well, seriously though, let's like actually address these problems, right? Let's like figure out how to address these fucking problems. You know, I find that because I'm writing about technologically advanced indigenous civilizations 3,000 years from now, you know, or 200 to 3,000 years from now, and it's like it's not always as comedic in the way that the West does it, but that's because that's what the comedy is. It's always gallows humor because you're the next Voltaire on the block if you stand up to it, and everybody knows that. That's why nobody stands up in any corporation. There's one Thomas Anderson, and then they get thrown in a prison cage like a Chelsea Manning or a Daniel Hill, and then everybody else goes, "Oh fuck, I don't want that to be me. I guess I'm not gonna do shit." And that's why America and the West is where it is now because nobody does shit, right? And everybody knows. It's all gallows humor. Like, we're not going to do shit about it because we're just a failed America. Oh my God, there's billionaires everywhere. Billionaires. And Bernie's over there kissing the ass of the billionaires right now, right? Standing his competent imperialist by the admittance of the Biden Democrats, right? That's what Bernie's doing. So we're not going to do anything about it. Everybody knows that, you know, in the West, you know? Now you should, and not, you know, you should, you can't until you like, learn to do cooperation across east to west. I recommend checking out the Chow Collective and People's Forum sponsored very important talk today it's called China and the Left. I really recommend checking it out because it's the beginning of learning from an actual civilization, like some ways to address these problems. You cannot replicate the Chinese system. It is socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's not replicable. There are important lessons to learn. At minimum, you can learn how to stop not having healthcare and housing. It's called not putting out Chinese anti-China propaganda because when you do that, you're giving consent to the military-industrial complex to spend more of your healthcare, housing, food, and all the other things you need on weapons. You know the $90 billion of Australian fucking nuclear submarines? That's your money. That could have gone to stuff that you need. But if you continue to participate in any way, shape, or form in this increased unnecessary needless conflict for the military-industrial complex, you're hurting yourself. I hope that some people, because there's a lot of selfish people in the West, and I hope that I know that they're not all, but sadly that's the way that they want you to think. And even if you just from a selfish perspective, that's not, I should say you should do more internal work and become a less selfish person and be in full radical solidarity with all the people and with the Aina too, you know. But for the moment, if it gets you listening to that, consider that if you propagate this needless lies about successful East and global South resisted actual civilizations and under the colonial boot now coming out from under it, you are actually hurting yourself. There will never be healthcare or anything. There will never be any livable society in the United States without the assistance of the global East and the global South. I will say that with confidence. Now, if the United States implodes, it can pull faster or slower. But internally, like that's where it's going to be alleviated. That's historically, that's without the Soviet Union, there would not be the civil rights. Like the JFK and the actual cabinet and the State Department itself has admitted that like we needed to do that, not because we give a fuck about black people. We needed to look better because it was embarrassing. The same way that it's embarrassing for Canada right now to look bad because They're trying to because China is looking more successful than Canada and America, and Canada doesn't give a fuck about its indigenous people at all, and it's not doing enough. But even the little acknowledgement, and even doing 9 out of the 200 things to try to deal with that genocide, wouldn't be even touched. It would. I think that wouldn't be there if it wasn't for more successful advanced civilizations leading 7/8 of the world population in their direction. You know, America, Afghanistan debacle. How do you trust it? Who's going to trust even America's own allies? France is turning on America. America wants Vietnam to go with it. Like, you blew us up and then you just wrecked Afghanistan. Why are we going to partner with you? Nobody trusts the U.S. anymore, you know, except those deeply invested European and settler colonial Five Eyes and Japan and India that have too much invested already in their pro-American stances. Everyone else is like, even Greece is like, the Greek foreign minister and Chinese diplomats have met, and Greece said, the Greek and the Chinese have so much in common. You might not know this, but actually the Greeks, they had Buddhist paintings and art that reflected like Chinese and Buddhist thought, and also Chinese philosophy and Chinese imagery and painting styles and characters. There's been the civilization, the Silk Road and the trading routes that went through all of Asia, around India, all the way down to Africa, and they went through Greece as well. They're reconnecting this road, you know, and that's why the Port of Piraeus, you know, it has been, ask Giannis, it has been beneficial to the Greeks, you know, like, and the Italians are coming on board with this. That's why they published a report saying they have Italian investigators. They found, official Italian-backed investigation found, all the Uyghur genocide claims are highly dubious. They have no solid evidence, and they appear to be almost all virtually heavily politically motivated, not authentic, real concern for the human rights of Muslims anywhere, let alone Muslims. You know, they say, there's a Chinese saying, they're saying in the Muslim and the Chinese world, apparently, that goes like this. The West doesn't care about Muslims. The West doesn't care about the Chinese. But the West really cares about Chinese Muslims. Not anymore, though, because it seems to be failing. Oh, shit, we have to get new CIA lives. Let's talk about Tibet. Hong Kong, what do we got? Hey, we got $90 billion worth of submarine money. Anybody want that? So anyways, if you have some time, I recommend checking out. You have Ting's Chak, you have Vijay Prashad, No Cold War. You've got all the Danny Haifong and Carl Jha aren't on this one, but if you missed that one, the Danny Haifong and great Black Agenda Report co-editor and Left Lens host and reporter who also writes for CGTN sometimes, and Carl Jha, great Chinese historian. We're on the Asia Pacific Cooperation panel last week, so if you want to learn more about that, I recommend checking that out. I recently did. We're getting close. It's 1 o'clock. I'm gonna get off shortly, but so yeah, if you missed those, do check out the panels. Do check out that No Cold War forum, because it's really gonna be. I think it's gonna be. I listened to some of it. Listening to some of it, it's a lot of very important stuff. Yeah, Asia Pacific Cooperation. Luna Oi, Danny Haifong. We actually had Naftali Faulkner from a Maori representative, Akemi, a Okinawan. Myself, I'm Native Hawaiian. Carl Jha, Chinese, very, very excellent anti-imperialist dunker with Chinese characteristics. A Chinese and great Chinese historian and creator of the Silk and Steel podcast on Chinese history, and of course Luna Oi of Vietnam. So we have Vietnam, China, Okinawa, Hawaii, Aotearoa, New Zealand, known as New Zealand to some, and I'm talking about Asia Pacific cooperation, about how we can work together to help people in the West as well. It's just not just to help the people in the global South and the East and the Asians and the Pacific Islanders. It's just to help everyone and the planet Earth, right? To deal with climate change, to deal with climate change, war, conflict, economic inequality, poverty, COVID-19. All these challenges require international global cooperation, and we can't have that if we have butting heads between the two superpowers. Mostly one side butting on the other head and then getting its head bashed on the Great Wall of Steel of 1.4 billion people in a great socialist indigenous civilization, right? But even that's not good. We don't want that. That is as long as East and West are not working together as well as can possibly be managed, suffering will continue in the West. It will continue in the East, but it will even more continue in the West, I would argue. It's actually to your own interest to get this straight, because You know, for all the reasons I've already said. So do check that out. Do check out definitely Matrix 4 when it comes out, you know, because I'm a cyberpunk geek, and Neofeud is a game, and my games are very much in the vein of the Matrix sort of edge of cyberpunk. You know, the Matrix, you know, speaking of the Matrix, we should destroy the Matrix, says Morpheus. Yet you participate in the Matrix. Curious. I'm very intelligent. So this is Westerners Defending Imperialism 2021. Speaking of the Matrix, it's very much like that. You know, the Matrix, if Morpheus, Dozer, and Tank, right? A lot of the people outside of the Matrix are non-white. They're brown, they're black, right? I think that's a deliberate choice, right? The agents are all white dudes, right? With a particular business, you know, and U.S. agent haircut, right? Well, they're agents, but they're all white guys, and there's a reason for that, you know. Not just because the Wachowskis are base leftist trans people, but also because the global, you know, if you look at it as inside the Matrix is the Western world, America, Canada, the UK, Australia, right? It was actually filmed in Australia, very similar to the United States, right? That's why it's like, this is the United States at the end of the 20th century. It was actually Australia. That scene that they're filming, the skyscrapers they're in. So Hugo Weaving, and they're all in that. Hugo Weaving is, I believe he's Australian, or he's either Kiwi or Australian. I forget. The two other agents were also Australians. You know, they're all ASPI employees, right? They're nuclear sub buyers and weapons manufacturer shills. But the Western world, the white patriarchal colonizer world, imperial capitalist world. Imperialism and capitalism are born and exist in the same, you know, they're really two sides of each other. And the most important one is the imperialism. That's where the greatest accumulation of wealth is from. And so if you look at it as imperial, colonial, inside the metropole is inside the Matrix, right? People are abused in the Matrix, right? Mr. Anderson is like a cog in a machine. You know, either you choose to show up on time, Mr. Anderson, and work for this very prestigious corporation, or you choose to get another job, right? Now, it's nowhere near as close to as oppressed as being murdered by fucking machines like, I don't know, American military, or sanctions, or embargoes, or hybrid war, outside, or enslaved outside of the Matrix. Outside the Matrix is the East, right? That's Vietnam. Outside the Matrix is Africa, right? That's Iraq. That's South Central America, right? Outside the Matrix, the oppression and is much greater and wider to a larger number of people. But that's why I think they're predominantly non-white. They're brown and black, because if you had a room with 100 people in it, 4 of them are white, and everyone else in that room is brown, black, yellow, something else. Not it's the vast majority of people are not white men, not white, and they're definitely not white men. And so outside the Matrix is where the majority of the oppression is, and that's also where the people that, like, you know, they also know the truth, right? Like, take this red pill, and, you know, but that, again, Western disinformation is taking the red pill and co-opting it back into the Matrix, right? Like everything else, like rock and roll, like the Matrix, the movie itself, right? And now it's a signal of the right wing global fascism backed by Gamergate and the gaming community, and 4chan and Reddit trolls, and, you know, anti-feminism, which Elon Musk, as the shining light of white male Westernness, took when Grimes was having his SR-71 baby, or whatever the fuck. So the Matrix is a very good metaphor for that, of the global South. Morpheus knows the truth. Morpheus wants to help, you know. Now, I'm not Morpheus. I'm much better looking, and I'm a much better actor. I have a much higher net worth. I'm just kidding. I don't. But, you know, Morpheus, I'm not Morpheus, but they're much better. Like anybody who's from the actually like didn't grow up, went to a stormtrooper training facility like any school in America, has much more truth in their brain than me. So that's just how it is. But I also have I understand the way that the Matrix works, because I've lived and worked there. I was going to be a high frequency trading Goldman Sachs algorithm programmer working in New York City for big banks and corporations. But I didn't do that. So, you know, I have knowledge about the Matrix. But if you look at it that way, right? That's why Luna understands and knows what, and is able to speak much more confidently and truthfully, is much more educated and based in all these ways, because not because there's something special. I think there's nothing genetic about the Vietnamese. for A, dealing with COVID-19 in their DNA. That's just racist and eugenicist. B, I don't think there's anything genetic about their anti-imperialism, actual left stances, and that's why they have. It's just there's deep historical, cultural, multi-thousand year history that has happened in the way that they have, and that's why they are. That's why it is that way, because of the historical and material conditions, etc. And so, if you look at that way, right, then. But when you have access to non-illusory Western historiography, not access to non-mass violence and disinformation-based organizations of human life, like the West does in America, etc., then you can try to help those people in the matrix that are based on disinformation and violence to learn what they're dealing with and try to fight back against it, right? Now, when you learn what it is and then you try to fight, when Keanu Reeves, right, for example, when he learns who he is, the agents in the beginning, when he does, they think they can use him to get to the Morpheus, right? They think they can use him to. It's like they can use him to get to the Vietnamese. Like it's like somebody who's like Andy Ngo could be used to get to leftists, right? But like once you really become fully understand and you understand who you are and you understand your place, you understand what the Matrix is, right? You understand what the Western world is. You start saying true things in the Matrix, right? Then you get Daniel Hill, then you get Assange, then you get Voltaire, then you get Richard Wolff. No, two people show up to your lectures. Nobody wants to hang out with you because you're just lucky you have Ivy League prestige, right? Nobody listens to you, right? Because they want to work in Wall Street for the World Bank, for Toronto Stock Exchange, right? That's what economists get jobs in. Nobody wants to be, like a sad person with a degree in the United States with a massive ball and chain of student debt with no good job. Why are they going to listen to true things in the United States, like what Richard Wolff and socialist professors say, Marxist professors say? That's why Michael Hudson had to go to fucking China to say true shit. And gave China, he said, Michael Hudson is basically similar things that I'm doing. He's like, Chinese, this is what they're going to do. They're going to financialize the economy. They're going to turn everything, they're going to bid everything up in massive asset bubbles. They're going to try to pretend to be philanthropists. They're going to say they're going to help you, and then they're going to not. They're going to try to, they're going to take student debt. They're going to jack it up to $2 trillion. This is what they're going to do. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to try to neo-imperialize you this way, because you know how I know that? Because I worked on Wall Street for years. So Michael Hudson, he's like an ex-Wall Streeter. He said, everything that I ever learned in the Western economics departments of their universities. Let me get him on. I bring this name up and I don't show him. He was a former Wall Street analyst, political consultant, commentator, and journalist. I believe he worked for like World Bank, IMF level institutions. This guy, and then what did he do? Now he spends all his time fucking dunking on imperialism and neoliberalism, right? And trying to assist China. This is what he does. He goes, George Soros turned China into neoliberal gravitization opportunity, is to figure out the latest variant of Western barbarism and the latest scam of imperialism, the latest variants, right? And then help Zion not get destroyed by the Matrix, and go like, hey, this is what they're gonna do. Get ready for that, right? Get ready for this. And they're like, holy shit, you're right. We'll get ready for that. We're gonna like wipe out all of the real estate valuations of Shanghai, Shanghai, Hong Kong, all the big $30 million condos. Holy shit. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Yeah, we're going to limit all the screen time. We're going to whack all the big techs. We're going to regulate. We're going to alter the entire testing system so that people who go to $20,000 a year private schools can't outplay and have a built-in aristocracy of higher education and online learn. Part of the online thing is so that massive like hour a night tutoring. I actually know somebody who's a white guy who teaches Chinese students of the rich they do have they have contradictions internally, yes, and they try to deal with that. Teaching the children of millionaire Chinese bank and corporate executives math and reading to get to the highest levels and accelerate them beyond the masses. And so China said, no more of that. We're going to revamp the entire testing scheme. No more high-stakes SAT-style bullshit fucking testing. Constantly rooting out the corruption. Constantly rooting out the Western variants and barbarism, like rooting out COVID-19. Contact testing and tracing brain viruses and financial and economic viruses like real estate speculation infestation, right? Like big tech infestation, like neofeudal educational apartheid divides based on income class infiltration, to keep the landlords and the corporate lords and the bank lords and all the other lords out, like they did, like that's what Mao did. He said land reform very important for landlord and for corporate lord, corporations based on factories, restaurants, and other buildings on the land, and to maintain that, And so anyway, so that's the role that some people play who understand all this, Not to say that he's gonna, but that's just one of many people that provides very important information. Richard Wolff, by the way, also was participating in a I believe it was Richard Wolff, Vijay Prashad of No Cold War, and Richard Wolff were all participating in a recent event within the last week. I can't remember what it was, so that was very interesting as well. No Cold War panel opposing U.S. I don't want to go on Reddit because that's Reddit not even once, right? Now, this is what it is, yeah. So if you missed this one, this is another one. No escalation on the new Cold War on China. No, I don't want to. No. This is where a bunch of Gamergate fucking brain virus people live. No Cold War opposing the US ICA and the US escalation on China. This is this week. No, this is coming up. This is coming up in 2 days. So again, Vijay Prashad is an anti-imperialist, very important anti-war, long veteran anti-war and anti-imperial left activist. I believe he's from India. I might be mistaken. Somebody outside the Matrix, right? He's like a Morpheus, Ting's Chak works for Vijay of the Tricontinental organization that does research in poverty alleviation and how and dealing with societal problems, and particularly Tings was investigating China. Diaspora Chinese lived in Canada, went back because Canada is a racist, anti-Asian shithole and collapsing, and China is just better housing, everything. So, and also Tings works with Vijay. Richard Wolff is in this panel, so very important one for people to check out as well. There's a lot of people, and this is very good for the Western left. This is the conference currently happening right now, to bring it back. China and the West, China and the left, very important panel. Because I'm not going to put it on screen because I don't want to get in trouble, but because I don't know about YouTube, but Vijay is in that, and a bunch of other folks. And there's multiple, that's not everybody. There's more people in it, I think, but it's trying to, these kind of panels of the global South and East and actual left, the actual international anti-imperialist, as a great indigenous socialist, actual defeater of, along with all of the MAS socialist, indigenous-led Bolivian peoples, and indigenous and socialist people, kind of like China, indigenous and socialist people, right? Evo Morales once said, right, they kicked out Elon Musk, we will coup whoever he wants, America back, lithium coup, and that fascist Agnes and neoliberal coup, to get German 97% wealth extraction of Bolivians' resources in collaboration with the South African apartheid beneficiary Elon Musk and United States military and intelligence community working together for continued imperialism. China, you are not, Evo Morales said, you are not revolutionary if you are not anti-imperialism. And so anyway, so that's Evo is another, he's another Morpheus. He's trying to teach, hey, people living in the Matrix, Mr. Anderson, you're very confused. You're dealing constantly with this cognitive dissonance. Why is there a splinter in my mind? Every time I say the word civilization, I'm like, civilization is the thing that the UN says that the US, UK, and the great primary powers, the primary civilized powers don't do genocide. Wait, but these guys all do genocide. So is the word civilization wrong or genocide wrong? That's a splinter in your Mr. Thomas Anderson mind. And then and indigenous people in the United States are also people that have access to this. Like, hey, the history that you believe, I was listening to Dallas Goldtooth about this as well. It's like, Americans believe that, the Indians, the indigenous people of Turtle Island, what American white people call Indians a lot. Well, the Indians are in the moral right, but America and white people, we're in the legal right. It's like, no, you're in neither. You're in neither. You don't even know the depths of shit that that's what I'm saying all the time. America has no fucking rule of law. It's going back on all its laws all the fucking time. But nobody in America all the Mr. Andersons are like, this is confusing. I don't understand. How is America teaching, how is America defending the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and calling out, violation of human rights when America's bombing on Mauna Kea, where Silver Spook is telling me they're bombing and they're poisoning Hawaiians and they're banning Hawaiian language. That's weird. I'm confused, brain splintered Thomas Anderson. I'm a very confused white guy working in a fucking air-conditioned office. Oh my God, what the fuck is going on? So stop being confused. I'm just one of the billions of people around the world that understand this. I'm just one that happens to speak in Stormtrooper language well and make cyberpunk video games for Goldman Sachs and military industrial complex and surveillance capitalist working nerds, right? Cyberpunk is the favored Facebook programmers and drone fixers for the U.S. military. The number one game is Cyberpunk. All the computer nerds, they love the Cyberpunk. So my job is to try to reach some of the high stakes Thomas Anderson through Neofeud and sometimes these streams, anybody who gets reached. But there is much more than me. But part of the problem of the racism, it's a very good strategy. It's a very good strategy of the Western barbarism. Make everybody racist against Asians so you never listen to them. And black and brown people, so you never listen to them. Because they speak the language funny. Like, how many of you can fucking speak Chinese? Virtually none. A lot more Chinese can speak English than English speakers speak Chinese. But the racism means you never listen to them. So it's a very good, it's a shield against it's like having a giant mask over your mouth. Not because you had your mouth sealed shut by Agent Smith, and what good is a phone call, Mr. Anderson, if you're unable to speak? You're having your mouth sealed so you can't take antibiotics for your brain poison, or you can't take it's like having a seal over all of your veins. See, or having a seal over your arms, so you can't take a vaccine, right? The racism insulates you from learning anything about the actual reality from the global south, from the Morpheuses, from the tanks and the dozers in the global south of the world. Because they're all Asian, they're all despotic backwards, they're all just Chinatown. They just bring me they all make cheap gadgets and they stole everything from us. What can I learn from an Asian? There's nothing I can learn from an Asian. Are you kidding me? They stole all our technology. All the best stuff came from America, And so nobody knows anything in America or anywhere or in France for that matter, or in Britain. But you have to try to break through. It's not possible. It can't be happening. America is not the greatest country in the world. White people and the Western civilization is a lie. We stole everything. Oh my God. That's the hard part to get past. It's the really hard, the Western white supremacy, the subconscious Western supremacy, liberal supremacy, English speaking world supremacy. Not even just white. It's all of it. Black, brown, Asian, Jewish, Palestinian. I mean, if anybody who lived, not like usually not the ones in Palestine, but if you live long at Rabia Kadir, I love America. Andy No, anybody who exists and is indoctrinated long enough into the Western barbaristic world, that the diseducation system that it has, right, will have deep revulsion when they hear the things that are said by the Morpheuses of the world, and they vomit. Like Neo vomits up. I can't take it. And there's a point where he says, "Fuck this! I'm out of here." He doesn't want to. He says, "Neo, the agents are coming for you. I need you to get out of the 200-story window of the giant banking or corporation, overpriced real estate of Australia. Get out of that window, climb alongside the concrete, and try not to get blown off and fall to your death." Right? And Neo's like, "Fuck this! I don't want to climb out of the window and possibly die." And he goes back inside, right? And then later on, he's like, "Neo, you gotta, we're gonna lift your shirt up," and there's a gun on him, right? Switch is like, "Lift your shirt up. We don't have time for 20 questions." And he's like, "Fuck this! I don't want to. This is weird. I don't want to get weird shit zapped out of my stomach." And he opens the door and he almost goes away, right? That's the feeling of being sitting with the discomfort as a white person, as a Western person, as somebody deeply invested, bought in, and lied to. And that feeling of anger, or like, "No, I'm right." That's the first one. No, you're wrong. Now, the second one is, "This is upsetting. Canada's committing genocide against Indigenous people in residential schools. Oh, this is upsetting." Of course it is. It's going to get a lot more upsetting than that, right? But that's the first revulsion. That's throwing up. That's getting out of the car saying, "Fuck this. I don't want to have fucking like little fucking shrimp robots inserted into my stomach and ejaculated out of my fucking navel by some kind of like electromagnetic pulse machine while I'm having a gun pulled on me by people I don't know. I'm out of here. Fuck this, right? That's like, I ain't climbing out no window. I ain't climbing out no window. I ain't climbing out no window falling to my fucking death so that I can, that's I'm going to get blown out. I can't even climb out of windows well, I'm not a parkour master. I'm just some random office clerk, Parkour's not even cool yet. It's like fucking 2000. Nobody's doing parkour yet, I'm trying to get a picture of that. Like this. So you're like, people in the West are like, yeah. You know this scene? I'm trying to find the one where he's climbing out the window. I can't find it, but it's okay. You know what I'm talking about, right? He's in his office, and Morpheus says, "Climb out the window and get to the roof." And he's like, "How the fuck do I get out of the office and get to the roof?" That's bonkers. That's super dangerous. It is dangerous. You could get fired if you say the things that I'm telling you in some places. You say, "Oh my God, America's Adrian Zensback propaganda and BBC, New York Times, and everywhere else, and including a lot of left circles, is full of lies about Xinjiang. This is all lies, anti-Asian racism." You can get fired from many universities and many jobs because they're owned by the U.S. military and by the empire. And they require those lies to be propagated in universities, and also just people are so diseducated. There's that scene in The Matrix where Lady in Red. There's a scene where you learn that anyone in the Matrix, right? This is when Neo's being distracted, right? Neo's looking at the Lady in Red in the simulation, and then he turns around and there's like a gun pulled on him. Matrix, Neo, test. Simulator. Let me see if I can find that one. Where Neo is walking around and he looks at the Lady in Red. He turns around and somebody pulls a gun on him. And because anyone in the Matrix at any time can and will turn on you. Everyone in the Western world is bought into the lies, as wrong as it is, right? And we are trying to save all the people who believe the Xinjiang genocide, who believe in the Iraq WMD, who believe in the Naira testimony, who believe Yeonmi Park, who say, "Oh yeah, let's go to war with North Korea again. Oh yeah, Gulf of Tonkin. Oh yeah, let's go bomb Vietnam. Let's save the poor Vietnamese. Oh my God, let's save all the Iraqis from the babies thrown out of incubators. Oh my God, let's go and bomb Saddam. Oh my God, let's bomb Syria because, oh, look at these sad chemical weapons. People are smashing up onions, putting in their face, and a bunch of pool cleaners are thrown out in Syria. Oh, let's go save all the Syrians. Let's save all the Afghanistan peoples," right? Everyone is around you will be bought into the Islamophobia, the anti-Asian racism, the save the sad Asian, save the Asian from genocide, save the Muslim from genocide story, one or the other, right? If you're more on the right, you're more of a right-wing, kind of guy. It's like, well, they're bad, they're taking our shit, we gotta go beat them up. If you're more of a left or liberal, you're crying, you're like, oh, it's so sad, let's go save them, let's be Captain America and save them. We're the good guy with the big gun and nukes and bombs and military industrial complex. So, but either way, when you say true things in the Matrix, in any office in most of the Western world, especially a white one, white stream, white fake left Twitch, YouTube stream, white Discord, white left Discord, they're all going to call you genocide denier. They're going to call you tanky. They're going to call you authoritarian. They're going to call you liar. They're going to call you like fascist. They're going to call you all kind of stuff. And that's why you got to be really careful. It's like, you can't just go around going, "Hey everybody, I'm Neo. I'm working for Zion. I'm with Morpheus, known terrorist," right? Right? That's like all the fake leftists that are going around going, look at this. All these people are terrorists. All the, like Vijay Prashad, these are all people who are all on the shit list for a lot of Western, so-called Western white left, the fake left. And it's because they are agents, all of the citizens, especially the white ones, that have more buy-in to the United States and Canada. The black and the brown and indigenous, they don't fucking give that much of a shit because they're too busy suffering under the colonization. They can see that they're on the receiving end internally of the colonization. But the people who the colony is made for, who want to do the right thing, are the people who, they are agents of the system. They will turn against you, and they turn against me all the time. I get called genocide denier like 10 times a day. That's fine. So, I'm like, "Hey, do you care about the Hawaiian genocide?" No, I don't care about your Hawaiian genocide because America is in manufacturing consent to bomb Hawaii into the Stone Age for $1 billion contracts. So I don't care about your Hawaiian genocide. I don't care about your Hawaiian. That's what I try to do is I kind of go, "Hey, do you care about, oh my God, it's so sad about the Hawaiians. It's so sad about the Hawaiians. I'm not going to do shit because I'm a white fake leftist sitting around fucking talking about how I'm going to fight some cops today, but I'm not going to do actual shit against the imperialism because my daddy works for the empire and I like having a nice office chair playing fucking Among Us and Call of Colonialism while talking about worker cooperatives. I'm not saying don't work. I'm talking about voting for the SOC Dem, voting for NDP, talking about Bernie, playing on my fucking video games, right? You know, calling everyone tanky that's trying to resist actual colonialism, right? Because I'm a piece of shit fake leftist and I'm a white clown. Having shitty panels where nobody's talking about anything useful, with a bunch of white people making stupid jokes all day long. That's so, you know, when you're somebody, you know, it sucks. I know it sucks because well, I know Silver Spook told me that I should speak about China's not our enemy and we have to try to work with them. But I'm surrounded by all of my white leftists, my DSA, my anarchist friends, even a lot of my ML ones, all of my white organizers, the union that I'm in, the left organization, the DSA, all the people that I'm Twitch streaming to, my YouTube audience, my Twitch, my Twitter audience, all my audience, my Discord friends. Everybody is a bunch of fucking Mr. Anderson or they're agents of the system, you know? Now, a lot of them are unwilling agents of the system. They're just doing it because that's all that they can't make their fucking $2,000 of rent this month. They don't tell these stupid jokes all day long that are meaningless and useless and benefiting the military-industrial complex. But like, it sucks. I will freely admit it sucks, and it will feel bad. The solution is not just continue being an agent of the system. The solution is continue to try to bring more people out. You know, try to find Try to, you know, as best as you can, try to push people in that direction. I know it's hard because white invested people, especially like this whole patriot socialism narrative, America can be saved. We just need strong white unions again. And, you know, not say that unions are good and there's nothing wrong with unions, but this class, working classes of the imperial core. And this is not sufficient, you know, if it was, you know, Bernie would have did a lot better. You would have had some changes by now that weren't just fucking Nazis, you know? I mean, like the National Socialism Party of Germany, and Brexit and Trump, you know? You would have had some, but you don't have any progress. You know what you have? You're suffering more. You're going to suffer even more. If you don't start getting to a more, you know, find those bits of community that are there find those little bits of Zion, those bits of fully decolonized, fully actual left. That has to be with land back, although it's fucking fake. And also for Black Lives Matter. I mean, the actual, not the co-opted shit, but the actual black internally colonized people. If, you know, you got to find those bits of functioning Zion within the matrix that you can get to and work with them and build out from there at the speed of trust, as Mexi says, to quote our comrade Mexi. See, comrade Mexi is with just one that's actually doing her, I'm pretty sure it's her, right? It's correct me if I'm wrong. Her best to get this out. Fought Vosh on stream. I remember that. Very inspiring. I'm not to say you should go on this guy's stream, but I'm just saying like pushbacks against that narrative that these clowns like Vosh and Destiny and all these white dude fake left bullshit artists are talking about, and Professor Flowers, of course, and tries to platform and listen to those people internally. While it's hard, I know it's hard. When you work in the academic world, when you're surrounded by other white, American, European, Canadian, vegans, you know, it's hard to push back. I'm not specifically wrong with vegans. It's fine. You know, that's important. But also anti-imperialist, not like the capitalist one that Thought Slime correctly pointed out. So it is going to be hard to push back on those people because they are more invested in the matrix, you know, and they want to do little token solutions like maybe let's have a strike in the matrix, you know, let's ask for better hotel worker salaries in the matrix, you know, that Cypher is eating at, you know, let's have better. And I'm not saying there's something wrong. Those people in the matrix are also oppressed, but to finally undo, you know, it's like to finally undo all the damage. You can do some harm reduction for people that are not being paid enough for the virtual hotel, the virtual Four Seasons in virtual New York. The hotel workers could maybe get a little better pay, but long run, that's not a solution because everything within the matrix is fully controlled and operated by the agents, and there's not really a way other than directly fighting the entire matrix itself, right? And that's why this quote is so great. We should destroy the matrix, you know. And then the Agent Smith here represents a lot of white, overprivileged, mostly dudes in the matrix going, well, but you're part of it. And like, I mean, you're doing a capitalism because you're making money from selling a video game or working at McDonald's. So you Luna, somebody told Luna this exactly, said, you guys are like making money from your YouTube channel and taking money producing content and then using that to buy products. So you're curious that you work in a capitalist civilized society. Vietnam is capitalist. You know, you're all capitalist and China's capitalist and you're all tanky, you know? So it's somebody who is in the matrix, even defeating their own material interest in the long run by fighting against Vietnam, which has, again, it's the life, you know, I don't want to go over all, you know, that you should know the statistics by now. I go over it like fucking 6 times a stream. So that's you know, and so, you know, but that, I think that to me, that's a lot of what the Matrix says that is not always brought into the analysis, you know? Yeah, I know that what Chomsky said, it is a metaphor for the trans experience, and you can definitely see that, and you can see what was left out of it, how it is that as well. And of course, whether they're saying that or not, whether the Matrix is a metaphor for the global imperial capitalist world, and outside the Matrix, Zion, Nebuchadnezzar, Morpheus represent the global South, the global East, the colonized peoples, and inside the Matrix is the white European imperial colonizer capitalist. Whether that's what they were trying to say or not, I am reading that in now as I read things in the Star Wars that George Lucas didn't correctly identify, as I've argued in previous videos on Star Wars, and I use the metaphor Stormtrooper all the time, but I'm actively reading that in. It is not obvious. I would argue if the Matrix was not less ham-fisted, more ham-fisted, not more off the nose. I always get called, you're so on the nose, you're so on the nose. I'm glad that for Gen Z, it seems like on the nose is like a positive thing now. Because for liberal and for Gen X, which are mostly liberal, and boomers that are liberal or conservative, you know, that are mostly not really left, on the nose is bad because you're saying what you actually mean. But if the Matrix said more forcefully and directly what it meant, now maybe it wouldn't be produced into a movie because this was the height of America's Western success. The Soviet Union had fallen. Capitalism was the end. It was the Fukuyama end of history. America, Western liberal capitalist democracy won. So it was very hard to make some movie that's saying exactly what you mean. However, if you say exactly what you mean, it like this is what you say it more forcefully what it's about. Like Sorry to Bother You is very unequivocally saying what it's about. It's about a very similar thing. It's a anti-military industrial complex, anti-capitalist, communist, about specifically organizing internally and stopping arms dealers and fucking neo-colonialism, right? With Worry Free. It's very difficult to pretend like Sorry to Bother You is about something that it's not. The Matrix is much more metaphorical, but when you do that, it can be co-opted by the global fascist and neoliberal movements like Steve Bannon and Gamergate, so that red pill means anti-feminism. And so, but you know, that's Monday. It's kind of Monday morning quarterbacking, but also it's like, that's why I say Neofeud it's much harder to, I would say it's harder to say that Neofeud is a pro-capitalist, celebratory, racism is awesome and the military is great. Neofeud is very unequivocally going the entirety of the Western world, from feudalism to capitalism to its military industrial complex, the United States itself. It's super racist. It's the government and its corporations. The whole fucking thing is completely fucked up, right? I think it's very difficult. Its social work system crushes people. Its police are constantly murdering innocent people and stealing children from their parents. The social work system is also stealing children from their parents. Everything about this entire structure is fucking broken, right? Neofeud is very unequivocal about that. And so it's harder to mistake that. So I think that it is important for artists and creators and producers of books, movies, games, works of art. I think in the moment that we're in, where we don't have a lot of time left, and we need to be saying, we don't have a lot of time to be entertained without doing work to improve this dying Western world in particular, but the whole world if we don't get this shit solved soon. To mince words and couch in clever little metaphors that you need a bachelor's degree in English or liberal arts to understand. It's not the time for that. It's time for like more, I think, direct and forceful statements and saying things more clearly about what's happening. A lot of people understand shit's all wrong, but we have to understand like where are we going. That's why I hope that Neofeud 2 is better than Neofeud 1 in this way to give even less. I made Neofeud 1 when I was still deeply within the Matrix in many ways. I was in Oahu, which is a illegal occupation of Hawaii, half of the Death Star that has the worst economic, police. It's like ultra America. You know, it's even worse than America in the police murder ratio of white versus black and non-white and Pacific Islander and Hawaiians. It's worse in survivability, livability for economically. It's the worst economic inequality for the actual ability for working class people to exist in Hawaii. It's the worst. It's the worst military occupation, the highest per capita military bases per geographic land. One of only like 3 states that has Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Army all together. Head of Indo-Pacific Command, in highest billionaire concentration on the planet in terms of like actual ownership of the territory, the stolen land. So, anyways, so I hope that Neofeud 2 is more about like what we can do better and more about not necessarily the solution, but more. This is a technologically advanced indigenous civilization. Both, and I include the native Hawaiians in that, and I also include the Chinese, the Vietnamese, and the indigenous people of Turtle Island, and lots of other people. And Cuba, in all of that, in ways that we can learn, places and peoples that we can learn from, you know, and listen to the Morpheuses of the world, right? And not just doom her out like a sad Neo, turning the red pill away, going back and reading a bunch of shitty white dude, you know, collapse this bullshit and just playing shitty, shallow video games till you die, right? From COVID-19 or sadness from your soul-sucking corporate job, you know, or anything else, right? It's listening to those people out there that are trying to give you the truth, true history, true present, true economics, you know, and also this is what we can do to deal with it, and this is the real fight that we're in, you know, which is not an inside the Matrix fight. It's a Matrix versus the non-Matrix fight. So, anyways, that's the end of the stream. Because I gotta get going. However, everything that we do here is supported by a video game that is currently on sale. It does support everything that we do. Neofeud is a dystopic cyberpunk adventure game like Blade Runner with an overlay of Game of Thrones like political intrigue and 1366 by 768 hand-painted stylized visuals. Neofeud is presently on sale. If you have you know, $4.50 and you want to help us continue to do the education work, if you would like this particular Morpheus to continue to have the, you know, single cell proteins, amino acid, vitamins, and minerals that this Morpheus needs to keep wearing base Morpheus shades and survive and give more education to everyone else through streams, and make Neofeud 2 and give education to Star Destroyer top tier programmers like the military and surveillance capitalists that are going to play Neofeud 2 because Cyberpunk is the favorite game of the computer nerds that run the world, or manage the IT for the world anyway. Please support Neofeud, and you can share it with people who might be interested in picking it up. If you like Cyberpunk games, adventure games, you want to support an indigenous, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist Cyberpunk adventure game, do consider checking it out. If you like Disco Elysium with more Cyberpunk characteristics, consider checking Neofeud out. If you are... and also, trying to find... I always lose that one. But anyways, if you believe in the core philosophy of Gibson's vision of cyberpunk that has been lost in modern gaming, foundational concepts of class struggle, anti-establishment, anti-corporatism, cheapened or sold off entirely in the favor of Neon or SOT's astroturf that were fed by games like Cyberpunk 2077, Neofeud is a resounding rejection of the mortgaging of this philosophy in pursuit of profits. The Silver Spook Studio, mainly myself and partner, operate as a worker cooperative. My understanding is that, well, I'm going to read it in my person, in the first person. Silver Spook pays collaborators in perpetuity. We do, with income from the game. As a worker cooperative, Neofeud is an obvious labor of love from a small group of people who are committed to the values the game espouses. It's well worth looking past the small gripes because this game is an absolute gem. Story and soundtrack are phenomenal, and if you're a genuine fan of real cyberpunk, you will enjoy every minute of the game. The real crime is that developers like this are creating this kind of content with razor-thin resources. Studios like CDPR have near limitless access to capital and technology required to wrap their vapid, cookie-cutter messaging in a thin veneer of cyberpunk aesthetic and fill the market's trough with meaningless corporate monoculture. In a healthy society, developers like Silver Spook will be properly recognized for their commitment to values and vision. I would argue the reason why Huawei has 98,000 worker cooperative members deciding what they produce, how to produce, what to do with profits, more than not by the masses of the democratized workforce. And Silver Spook has to basically survive. Like, we're barely making poverty wages for, if we add up all, we're a family of 4 here. If we add up all the money that we make from this, we're making hardly anything. I would argue that is because the West and the United States is the Matrix, and they don't care about the values that Cyberpunk 2077 pretends to critique. If they really gave a shit about those values, they wouldn't be a giant multi-billion-dollar capitalist, disgusting corporation, just like Militech. So that's why I say CD Projekt Red is a bullshit artist, and also the transphobic and kind of reactionary, and the game was terrible to boot. Anyways, so you can also follow us while we have access to the Death Star satellites, at Silver Spook Guy, which is my personal account. And you can also follow at Silver Spook Games, which is my mostly games related stuff. It is when Neofeud goes on sale, like it is now. So don't forget, Neofeud's on sale. If you take away nothing else from this stream, Neofeud's on sale. Just remember, please grab it so we can keep doing what we're doing here. We're not making tons of money like this. We make less than, it's like less than, from Neofeud sales, like less than $15,000 a year. We supplement that with like Patreon and a few other things here and there. Mostly it's Neofeud. So that tells you we're not making tons of money here. We're not rich by any stretch of the imagination. Cyberpunk made more money in the first like 10 minutes than we made in 4 years. So that tells you about the state of the gaming industry, Cyberpunk, and Western so-called culture. But you can follow Silver Spook Games at Silver Spook Games -E in silver. I forgot Mastodon. You can also follow, while we have access to non-Death Star satellites, Mastodon is a decentralized, non-capitalist controlled, federated social media platform, like Twitter, without billionaires and multi-billionaire mega corporations that are doing the duty of their calls of duty of the Pentagon and doing the Lord's work. And by the Lord, I mean Jamie Dimon and the Wall Street bankers. If you want to not support that, if you want to not get your news through that kind of and information through that kind of social media scheme, you can follow at SilverSpookGames at Octodon.social on Mastodon. Also, they don't delete Black Lives Matter and indigenous activists when it encumbers giant mega corporation profits like Lockheed Martin and the fossil fuel pipelines that go through Wet'suwet'en territory. Also, you can follow Terminus C. I can't spell the game name. Terminus C is a cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk. It's the cyberpunk. The only cyberpunk game. Terminus Cyberstar is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games such as Deus Ex and System Shock 2. It is a game that is being made by a handful of folks, including myself as the content director and lead writer. And then there's artists, writers, programmers, musicians, level designers, 3D and 2D artists who are working on this game. The project producer is Aaron Victoria, and looking very good. Coming out sometime soon. No release date yet, but if you want to keep updated on this game, look at that. Based ass, what's his name? Ray Bradbury reference. Anyways, you can follow Terminus Cyberstar at Terminus C. You can also join the Discord if you want to get more information about that one. And also, you can... I always forget this. I thank all these people. Thank you so much to all of these people. Dave, James Wheaton, Mixilla, Mr. Brewer, Kyle Rapp, Belinda Ann Taylor, Flagrant Ferret, Maxime Boileau, Industrial Robot, Johnny C, Alana Montero, Sean Collin, Danny Carroll, Eric Wright, J.R. Morgan, Stormcroft, The Reaver, Stumblebum, Right 455, Dejan Purvis Chambers, Bear Ashton Green, Alfonso De Lazar, Alchemy, Victor, Combo Breaker, Lark, Muriel, Skylar Smith, Philip Dodson, Tim Kabuter, Raff, Tiny Earl, Michael McAllister, CC, Extremely Online Left, Charlington Beast, Kaj Saw, Comedian WW, Adam M. Smith, Jacob Z, Sweet and Sanctified, O.J. Owens, Sean Lynch, Jose Antonio Hernandez, Torbida, Mass Casualty, Roquin, Rust, Brendan Long, William RDT, Sage Sharp, Christopher Strom, Londo Ongzel Spring, Sean Bob J. McBroderick, Sierra Banks, and Jan Jake. Thanks so much for your continued support. It is massively appreciated. We cannot do the hooeying together that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative /commune without, at least in part, all of your support. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, when you become I forgot to say, when you become a Patreon, you do get access to the Silver Spook Discord. You get added to the list of people that I thank all the time, and you also get added to you get to have access to early updates on Neofeud 2 and things that I'm working on that I don't tell everybody else. And also you get to support us in an ongoing way. So consider, how much is the streams worth to you? Because if this doesn't happen, like this, it becomes a lot harder to do the streams when we have to do other things to try to survive under the still global imperial capitalism that we live. So it really does help when you become a Patreon patron. So consider how much is the stream with you, if it is, if you have no money, it's fine. If you're global south, very poor, broke person, I mean, you survive. We're not in Iraq. We're not way down there in Congo right now. So but if you do have some money to give and you can support us, it is massively appreciated. Anyways, we'll be back. Hey, thanks a lot, Montero. Thanks a lot, Leon. Thanks, Holly, of course, for the always important work of moderating indie streams. And until next time, keep your mirror shades polished. This is the Matrix stream, so I'm gonna actually polish my mirror shades with this little piece of cotton swab that has ivermectin on it. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my Joe Rogan cleaning facility. Sorry, I gotta use this. I'm gonna polish my mirror shades a little bit today. There, you see that my mirror shade. When your mirror shades are polished, I'm gonna start selling mirror shades. See, if I was a capitalist douchebag shithead, I would sell these mirror shades for like $73 on Amazon. These are like the They Live mirror shades crossed with Keanu Reeves based cyberpunk rip off of Wesley Snipes shades, because let's be real, they ripped off Wesley Snipes fashion sense in The Matrix. But anyway, when you wear these Morpheus shades, you can see through all of the lies and the disinformation of The Matrix. And then buy these now for $73 on Amazon, and you will be revolutionary. And that's a carte blanche, or that's a carte blanche. Get out of your white guilt-free card to say terrible things to racists, to non-white people and colonized people, and women and people of color, because you bought my thing. That's what white dudes say. They say now you're smart, now you can tell other people that they're wrong. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna sell you these shades. Polish your mirror shades. Be excellent to each other. Support, your colonized people, indigenous people, and all people around the world. And listen to the freaking. Don't fear China. Listen to them, please. And we'll see you later on Twitch at 9 p.m.